What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting Art of War tier list. It's a Tuesday. That means it's time for a tier list. And you know what? We are back from a wonderful holiday vacation, Quinn. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. We're back to work. We have a whole new studio set up that we are very much in progress. If you could see on the other side of this camera, we have like boxes and stuff laying everywhere. Yeah. But I'm really excited.
But we hung a green screen.
We did hang a green screen. And we did like nothing else.
Seriously. Yeah, so back in a new studio. The guard codex isn't allowed at LVO. I'm sorry. Is it too soon?
I saw a meme on Reddit, and it was like LVO should let the guard players use the last codex this year.
Oh, I wish. Yeah. So happy Tier List Tuesday. Today we are ranking every single faction in the game. It's January. Games Workshop has promised us an FAQ by the end of January, but we don't really know when it is. But you know what? It's probably not going to be out by LVO because, LVO's soon.
Very soon.
Unless they're due like this week, I think. I'm not even sure. I haven't been keeping up with it. Yeah. So we know it's coming, but we wanted to rank the meta as it is right now. Now's a good time. We're going into the largest event in North America of the year. Yep. And after the holidays, every year is always like that January period. It feels like things are like almost soft because there's usually not a lot of releases in December. Yeah. So we've had a little bit of time. We had Worlds in November. Everyone got a Forge Fiend for Christmas. Found some Nurglings in a stocking. No more excuses, CSM player. You all have Nurglings. We're ready. Ready to rank things. And I'm excited for it. Yep. Let's talk about how we're going to be ranking each of the factions here. What's the criteria?
So I think what we do normally is we don't evaluate it purely on win rate. If you want to just go see which factions win the most games, you can go to websites like StatCheck40K and just look at the raw data. Meta Monday on Reddit. Yeah. So we're evaluating these factions based on what is our opinions on the best list of this faction run by the best player. Like, what is the maximum potential that this faction can achieve if everything goes right for you? Yeah,
this is an experienced faction expert playing the faction, doing it to its best potential. This isn't the average midpoint. Yeah. Which means that if, some army had a lot of bad builds and one
really good
very good build, that would be valued. Yep. We would be saying, all right, what if a good player is playing the best build?
Probably also give kind of like a extra random point if a faction is good throughout its entire book instead of just having one build.
Of course, not being mono build gives it its own strengths against anti-meta factions. But we are ranking the top potential. Win rate is not going to be the only thing being discussed, but also I am a numbers guy. I will be considering the win rate, but it's just one of the factors. Yep. It's not only how's the win rate, it's how many viable builds this faction does, how viable is the best build,
Also, is it a faction that relies on a player skill, or is it purely a stat check kind of faction? Is it a bunch of Terminators that walk you 5 inches, or is it really movement based, tricky?
That does matter a lot to me. You know how I value that. So we're excited. We're excited. And everyone's loving the hat.
The hat is here because as my hair is fading as it does, it's getting more and more green.
Can you show us real quick?
Let me see how bad it is. Oh, it's not bad right now.
You can see it, but at some point...
it will kind of become, actually just transparent, and then I'll be bald. And by that, I mean it will not have a head.
Well, the hat's working too. Yes. So, just a real quick note for everyone, we will be handling super chats at the end, unless it's directly relevant to the conversation. So, you know, if you catch us with a CSM super chat while we're discussing CSM, we'll probably chat now. But not during the middle of Eldar talk. Can't have CSM interfering with Eldar.
Or we have our union mandated 20-minute Eldar rant.
Absolutely. Every time I'm on the stream. Every time. It's part of my contract, actually. It doesn't matter if they're good or not. Right on. So the last thing I'll mention before we dive into it is that if you like this video, if you like this kind of content, make sure that you actually like the content. Let us know in the comment section that you like Quinton's hat. I certainly do. I will be leaving a comment telling him, share it, subscribe to the channel. All these things really help us grow the channel, help us keep doing this. So if you want to see more amazing Art of War content, make sure you check out the rest of the YouTube channel as well. Because, we do tier lists every Tuesday. And next week, there will be a new, completely different tier list that will not be all the factions of the game unless GW really surprises us with an FAQ like tomorrow, which would be funny.
That would be kind of funny.
I wouldn't be mad. But shall we? Shall we get into it?
All right.
All right. So let's go over the tiers that we have here. So first tier, this could be confused with S tier.
Yes.
It's for the pointy headgear.
To be in this faction, you have to have pointy headgear,
Yeah.
maybe pointy ears or a conical headgear, maybe
Something.
some spikes.
Who could say what that would be? Something with pointy headgear will be in it here, though.
Yes.
The next tier is for legible faction icons, and this could look a lot like A tier. This might even just be A tier, and this is just where the firmly above average armies go. These are armies that we think are very well capable of winning majors, contending for super majors, usually have the ability to punch up and beat pointy headgear armies, but aren't necessarily better than him, just because you can beat them doesn't mean you beat them every time.
Yeah, they're just like good. This is probably where factions should be, like the upper end of factions is in this kind of tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think most factions should actually be in the next tier.
That's true.
5-9.
I think
Perfectly
that, like,
average. Just good old classic. These armies, nothing wrong with them. Nothing wrong with being 5-9, right? You can put that on the profile.
So for chat, for everyone who's messaged me and been, Quinton, are you really tall or are you really short? I can't tell. The answer is
no one has asked you if you're really short.
That's
no one.
I look short on videos like this.
No, you don't.
I do.
You're sitting in a chair.
That's fair. The point is, I have very long legs and a very normal sized torso. So I'm tall. You can go look at the videos where I'm standing. That's the reason why I look weird on videos like this. Anyway, fun fact, because someone was asking for that in the chat. I just got back from Budapest. That city was once two cities, Buda and Pest.
You can tell that he just got back from Europe because he's pronouncing it Budapest or something.
Yeah, all of the locals got mad at me when I said Budapest. So.
Then that's how I know you just got back.
Yeah.
It's sparkling Buddha from the Pest district. I don't know.
I went when I was in Scotland and I was trying to say Edinburgh, and then Innes got mad at me because I was saying it wrong. He bought me at Elvia.
Good. All right. So 5-9 is it's perfectly average. Nothing wrong with being here. This kind of army doesn't really need any kind of a nerf. Probably doesn't need much of a buff. Maybe it gets a small buff. Maybe it gets a small nerf. No big deal. But it's right about where you should be. Like everyone should be happy. If they're there. But some people will not be happy, and those are in the next tier. And you could think that this is C tier because it's the Codex Wen tier. These armies are firmly below average. Yeah. They may put 5-9 on their Tinder profile, but they're not. You get there and you're like, hey, you know what? You're wearing heels or something because you're not. Yeah. You're not average. No. Unfortunately, these armies are below average. They need a little bit of love. Maybe they could get it in the form of an FAQ.
A lot of times, this faction in the Codex Wen tier, maybe they have one build that's kind of okay, or they have something going for them. But there's like a concept that like makes sense there, but they're lacking a cohesive design, or they're really overcosted, or something like that. Yeah.
There's some good stuff and still here, but there's not a lot of good stuff. They need a little bit of more love. Yeah. And before we talk about the final one, we're going to talk a little bit about John McArdell. Thank you, John, so much.
Hero of the hour.
Hero of the Imperium. Regardless of his own loyalties, he's always the hero of the Imperium in my heart. Thank you, John McArdell, for gifting 20 Ardmore memberships. If you happen to be gifted a membership, make sure you accept it. That's something that Richard says, so I assume it's relevant.
Yeah.
I don't actually know anything about this. So thank you so much for your support. Really, really appreciate you being in the chat with us today.
Yes.
Now, the last tier, it's D tier, and so it has traditionally been the Death Guard tier.
Somehow it's not the Death Guard tier.
It is, spoiler alert, Death Guard will not be in Death Guard tier. But we wanted to like give them an homage. Yeah. So they're wearing Death Guard's hand-me-downs.
Yeah, all the old power armor, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're doing their best. So this is the absolute bottom.
These factions are just bad.
These factions are bad.
Just bad.
They need love. And you know what? A faction expert in a Death Guard hand-me-down could still go do well in canon, like Skari. Yeah. No spoilers on who's gonna end up there. Like, you can still have a very good pilot with experience who loves the faction put up results that make you scratch your head. It happens. And I've got 2 armies in mind for this tier, maybe 3. And all of them have put up like an X and 1 in the last month or 2.
Yep.
Because I think basically everything has put up like an X and 1 in the last month.
The game right now is actually shockingly balanced.
Yeah, but if someone's going in S tier, then someone's going in D tier. But I think S and D tier are closer to the midline than average.
Right.
Like if we looked at the past 2 years, where is the best army, where is the worst army, how far are they from the middle? It doesn't feel like they're as far apart as normal, but the tiers are still there.
A lot of times in like the beginning of 10th edition or 9th edition, we had the armies that were at the top were like hilariously unbeatable, and the armies that were at the bottom were like playing a different game. Like they just didn't function properly.
Like could lose a game of Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Like we've been there. It's like, oh man. Yeah, so we'll see, but I think we're ready to start.
Yeah.
And it appears that we have these in alphabetical order, so
I guess we're doing it in alphabetical order.
that's accidentally how we're doing
Makes
this.
sense, yeah.
Ready to rock and roll?
Adeptus sororitas.
Adeptus sororitas, the Sisters of Battle. This one, this is weird.
Yeah.
Because like Sisters have been doing very well.
Nothing has changed with Sisters, but my impression of Sisters has just gone like directly up.
Yeah, they've definitely like, they got their buff in September. They got a little cheaper on some stuff. But it's an army that does not, on face value, when you read it, doesn't scream, I'm good at the game.
Yeah.
And yet, has won a super major in October, has won multiple events since.
Not just won a super major, beat you, me, and Jack in a row to win a super major.
It's a pretty good run.
It's not like...
It's a super major, not a major, but it's also won multiple majors.
Yeah.
I think Sisters are very firmly above average. They're not easy to play, and so it stops them from just taking over.
I agree.
They have a lot of MSU stuff. They've got a lot of good tools. Miracle Dice is a great mechanic.
I didn't quite realize the sheer volume of Miracle Dice that Sisters players get. I thought it was going to be like, oh, it's like Eldar, maybe you get like a couple extra. I didn't realize it was going to be like every unit, every turn is just like pouring a fire hose of dice at you.
Yeah, instead of getting to reroll Pain and Wound, they're just like, and one of them does.
Yeah.
Which is kind of valuable on the stuff that matters. Yeah.
Legible faction icon.
Yeah, we're definitely putting Sister Swords at the top. They've got a lot of good strengths. I very much expect to see them do relatively well at LVO. I am in no way surprised now when I see Sisters like winning a major. They actually have a fairly decent matchup into Eldar. They have a playable matchup into CSM.
Yeah, it's
not to spoil what matters, but
no, one thing I didn't realize is that Eldar are pretty good at like precision damage, but the like amount of Sisters units and the fact that they can also play the like
trading game
really well, but also the I shoot you with my cool Dark Lance. Oh, I auto pass the save on my 6-up invuln.
Yeah, that's great. Dude, when someone's getting towards the end of an activation, there's a Sisters unit barely holding on, and they're just like, oh no. I'm like, oh yeah, a whole other activation coming. Like, wow, you really should have killed this Rhino. But, like, well, I made 1 6-up invuln by rolling it. Let's just slam another one in there and now average that out the window.
Yeah.
I love that. Nick's been playing a lot of Sisters recently. I played a couple games with them in 10th. They're pretty good. They're also very fun to play. The MSU elements, I think, at least when it certainly when it kind of started its run in the scene, because it was ignored in September, and by people including myself. Gotta eat the Crowan.
I remember one faction tier list. I put them in D tier.
I think I feel like that might have been a you and me tier list, because I think I endorsed it. But yeah, I think they're very much an A tier. Sisters are well above average. I would not be surprised to see them get like a small nerf, but I don't think they need much of a nerf. I think they're just like kind of good at playing 40k. I think they just have like 1 or 2 things like Arca Flags that are just like slightly
the
too
Arca
cheap.
Flags ones are a little ridiculous.
They're just like slightly too cheap.
I think things like the Triumph could probably go up like 5 or 10.
Yeah, you could wiggle some points in there. They've got a couple bad units as well, but overall, very good army that doesn't have a single clear, this is why I'm too good.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it when they were starting to break out of the scene, is that Sisters are an area, if you look at every single data sheet, you're like, this data sheet is garbage. But then as you take it, as the sum of the parts is a lot more valuable than each individual unit. And a lot of it comes down to like every squad has a melt-a-gun, and that melt-a-gun hits or wounds automatically.
Yeah, it's
Or is flat 8 damage.
yeah. Every time, like, I definitely experienced that where I was like playing against Nick and just like the one multi-melt that was like, well, there's a 12 wound execute in line of sight. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's my bad. Okay, I see the problem now. Boom, fire hose, miracle ice. It's like all right, let's move on to the next one. Adeptus mechanicus, recent codex.
Not.
I still don't have like the highest confidence ratio, like metric on my rating here.
So I've played a good amount in that AdMech. Not like Infinity games, but I've been like 7 or 8 now. They're not awesome.
They're not awesome.
They're not awesome.
I feel like when I read the AdMech book, I can, like when I read it, not looking at the whole picture, I can find individual things where I'm like, that's cool, that's good, that's cool. But then and I'm not an AdMech player.
So breachers are pretty good. They are a legitimately good shooting unit. The taser chickens are really solid.
Yeah.
And then the dragoon chickens and the las cannon chickens are both too cheap for what you get. But aside from that, the faction is very anemic and just kind of like walks at you and doesn't do much. The hunter cohort is cute, but like I've never been like blown away by them. And I've been running
anyone's been blown away. Like they're usually not table people anymore, which I do not miss, to be clear. Thank you, GW.
I think they're definitely in Codex. They're at the bottom of Codex 1, the top of Death Guard hand-me-downs.
Oh, I wasn't going to put them in Death Guard hand-me-downs.
They're better.
Yeah. I do think they're below average.
They're not great. They're the 27 chicken like TTS list only is legitimately very good in teams.
Yep.
Because it's the amount of wounds you get is ludicrous. It just doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, it's hard to... I really struggle with that because like every time I played against them, it has been a case of like, you have very limited things, like you have very limited things that do damage.
Yeah.
And if you can kill those early, or if you can neutralize those early, it's very ignorable for the rest of it.
One thing that doesn't matter for forever, but is a good strike against AdMech is that their Eldar matchup is hilariously bad.
But they just like don't have the capability to kill.
No. So their breachers, their whole thing is they move 5.
Right.
And they advance and shoot.
Okay, see.
So if a Night Spinner shoots them, they move 3, and then they're just no longer a relevant unit.
I mean, doesn't that happen to all of us, though? Haven't we all been victimized by the Night Spinner just not letting us move?
That's fair, but it's different, right? Because they're also like giant soccer puck bases. So like if you shoot them with a Night Spinner and they're behind a wall, they can't move out to the other side of the wall.
Yeah, or like they're on 60mm bases.
Yeah.
So it needs to be like a thin wall because it's over 2 inches thick. So like they can move on over a thin wall, but they'd also have to be base. Like if you go, I'm an inch off the wall so I don't get charged,
you can't,
and then you get shot by a Night Spinner, then you're definitely not making it over. So that's bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, it's all unfortunate. Like I don't know how else to say it.
It's the other issue with them is that a lot of their detachments are just not where you want to be. They're just not great.
Yeah, most of the detachments did not inspire me at all.
Did you see like the Legio Cybernetica one where every single strategy is in your command phase?
I did read it. Yeah, no, I definitely read that, and it was
soccer fucking bases.
It's.
I did say that, didn't I?
Yeah, I
don't play sports, you guys.
I was just kind of letting that one happen. Like I didn't want to address it too much. And I'm gonna see if I can get the incoming one so that people can see what's next, because that seems to be popularly requested in the chat. So while I do that, let's I think below average is fine for us. I don't think that they're terrible. Let's actually talk about some of the virtues of the faction, because I don't think that they're just like completely dead in the water.
So, like I said, breachers and taser chickens are both legitimately just good units.
Yep.
They have advance and shoot on army wide the whole game, which is great.
Yeah, if it which is...
in the like good strat or in the good detachment, the hunter cohort, everything gets stealth, or all the good units get stealth. And then you have access to a 1 CP give a unit of 5 Athena pain, which you can put on chickens. And then at that point, it's like 100 and something points for like 20 wounds with an invuln and a toughness 7 with a feel no pain. And
yeah. I like all of that. I like how much stuff you can get. I've played games against Admech where it feels like they have an infinite amount of units because there's like 5 transports full of stuff. And if I'm a little bit too respectful with me trying to table them, then they end up having a battle line unit alive on turn 5 still. And they just keep running on to primary and then being like, and here's 5 AP0 saves, and 1 AP2 save.
it's a lot of that.
It's a lot of that.
So the amount of time it takes for you to roll out each ranger unit individually sometimes means your opponent will die of old age before the game ends.
That's certainly an advantage, yeah.
Now, have you played against someone where they have the six ranger units?
Yeah, I played against Richard.
The Arquebus, the Arc Rifle, the Plasma Caliber, the Archaeotech Pistol, the second Archaeotech Pistol.
Yeah, hold on, I'm rerolling ones on every possible activation. And it's, yeah. So I think Admech are below average. I think that there's still enough play for them to do cool things in teams. I think there's enough mission play stuff that they can do well. I think that they just don't really have the capability to punch up with any kind of reliability against the top factions. And that's a big... I don't need every army to be beating Eldar CSM reliably. That's why they're Eldar CSM right now.
Yep.
I get it. But I really struggle to see how Admech is trying to punch up against those armies with anything resembling equal skill from players, and that's just a big problem.
I think they really struggle into like legible faction icon and up are like all going to be trample through them.
Yeah. That's I agree with that. Let's get on to the next one. This is
Imperial Guard.
This is what I like. Imperial Guard Astra Militarum using an index, not a codex at LVO. I'm so sorry. And Guard I think are much better than perceived. Like, I feel like Guard, I don't know what the win rate is right now. I'm not going to look it up because it's, we said it wasn't just about the win rate, so I'm not going to color my perception.
I remember it being like fine.
I think that I feel like they're about to be 5-9.
Yeah, I was thinking.
It's where I'm thinking this is going to end up. But their indirect is very good.
Yep.
Their melee is basically non-existent.
Yep.
They have quite a few cheap data sheets for like playing the middle of the board.
The Catechin and Chimera is a very excellent package.
Catechins and Chimeras are pretty good. Bulgrin are stunningly cheap for when you actually read that data sheet.
Yeah.
Like they are, they're actually pretty good. The Khazarkin are something that has been impressing me recently. And yeah, someone already mentioned the double Primaris Psyker. In Scions and a Torox, I was putting mine in a Chimera so that I could shoot out the top after making a plus a ballistic skill.
There's one of them that gives you real wounds, I think, when you disembark.
Maybe, but like I don't care. Yeah. I think that is the.
Oh, Jack and I did a fix my list, and someone submitted a list with like max Scions, 3 Tempest, 3 Psychers or whatever, and I was really impressed with the primary Psychers. They shoot really hard.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's the Torox Scion combo. I love the Primera Psychers. You can get them out for like the one Uber blast at the Torox, you can keep them in a Chimera, and you can shoot out the top and like try to keep the unit alive for multiple activations. I kind of like when you get full rerolls to wound on dev wounds that's damage too is like a really nice burst damage. Because Guard hates getting rushed down by something they can't one turn. And so having that one burst damage where you run up like a Khazarkin unit or 2. And then you throw a grenade, drop the Catachan, or the Khazarkin, melts a mine. Then you shoot with full reroll the wound, dev wound damage 2. And suddenly, like, an Incarn is dead without taking saves at a certain point, where it's like, here, D3 mortals, grenade, 3 mortals. I'm like, oh wow, it's a 7 wound Incarn. Okay, rerolling wound, dev wounds, here's a lot of shots.
Yep.
It's like, wow, you're not like a 3 or 4 wound Incarn. I haven't even tank shocked it yet, and I'm still going to shoot it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of ends up actually doing a lot more than you expect. The Guard indirect is good. I think it has that ability to terrorize certain armies by just being like, you're not ready for indirect death. But then you run into the armies that do deal with indirect, and you're like, oh no. So I don't love just saying, yeah, I'm just going to do all indirect with Guard.
I agree. Also, the problem is like a lot of times if you take all indirect and someone goes first against you and they just run at you and you're like, oh.
Yeah, indirect is great damage over 5 turns. It's very rarely good damage over 1 or 2 turns.
It's a problem that Eldar have, or Death Guard, any army that relies on indirect, is that if you can play 5 turns, indirect is awesome, but it's the damage for points you get is not worth it for one turn of shooting.
I had that experience with Ironstorm, where I was running triple whirlwinds and I went second against CSM that were deployed semi-aggressively, and it just ran at me, and I had like one really good turn of I get to activate, and one turn was enough to win the game, and then I got activated on and died. So I can relate to that across all armies, but I think that Astra's ability to play the middle of the table is better than it would look.
Yeah, I think they have tools. I think some of their tools are lacking.
Yeah.
They're an army that has strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's fine.
Yeah. And I think if we went off of win rate, I would expect them to get buffs, not nerfs. I know they're below 50. I don't remember how below 50 they are, if I'm being honest.
My gut says they're in like the 48 bracket.
Yeah, but like I feel like Astra Military, and let's actually put them where we think they belong. I think they're solidly in the middle, but I think that they have a lot of potential still. And so this is an army that I want to play a little bit more of. God knows that I didn't finish painting Khazarkin at the end of 9th, so I have a bunch of Khazarkin that are built, have all the wrong weapons, and I'm gonna have to buy. I saved all the plasma guns though, so I'm just gonna buy another box of Khazarkin and then grab all the old plasma guns and put them on, and all the old melta guns. Be like, all right, no more las rifles and hotshot las. Let's get real guns in here. Fair enough. Astra, I feel are pretty good.
I have a confession. I really want to try and play Astra Military.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but thinking about like tanks and chimeras seems really fun to play.
Yeah, that's what I like. So I'm not going to claim I was the one to innovate it, but the kind of guard list that is starting to get innovated by other people is a lot more appealing to me than indirect spam.
Yeah.
I love indirect. I love having enough indirect that if we're both sitting there, it adds up.
Yep.
Like 2 manticores is my like ideal. Maybe 2 manticores and a basilisk
or something.
That's the perfect amount of indirect for me to be like, yeah, this is going to hurt if we just stare at each other, but it's not just indirect. I've enjoyed playing with Demolisher Russes. I've really enjoyed seeing Dorns are pretty good. Yeah. There's a lot of actually pretty solid options in here, and I feel like if a couple of things on top got knocked down and Astra got no changes at all, ignoring the fact that they could potentially get a buff, they could actually be very good on me.
Guard feel like a faction that like doesn't need to get changed, just needs to gain a change around it.
Yeah, really don't think that they actually need any or many buffs at all. Yeah. Next,
Blood Angels.
Our first Space Marine chapter.
I legitimately think Blood Angels are pretty good.
So I think we have to actually start this by discussing how we want to rank Space Marine chapters.
So I'm of 2 minds here.
Yeah.
The first is that we could say we are ranking the Space Marine chapters based off their like unique detachment or whatever. But I think that kind of does a disservice because like Blood Angels are a legitimately competitive faction in Gladius, and less so in a Sons of Sanguinius detachment.
Yep.
So I think we should treat each of these Space Marine chapters in whatever detachment is best for them.
Yeah. I think we're just going peak.
And a lot of time that should come in Gladius.
Yeah, or an Iron Storm, or a Vanguard, or a whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're not going to be ranking the Sons of Sanguinius detachment. At the moment, no chapters have any like codex supplements, so they all just have their 1 detachment. I think we're just ranking it. Yep. We're ranking it on the best that it's got. So
Blood Angels Gladius, really solid. It's one we actually saw a ton at WCLP. I played it like 3 times.
Yeah, and the Blood Angel data sheets are pretty dang good.
Yeah.
The Librarian Dreadnought, the ability to teleport infantry at the end of the movement phase, not the reinforcement step, the end of the movement phase, hilariously means you can do it after opponent rapid ingresses.
Or Phantasms.
Which is really funny. Because if someone tries to rapid ingress into that, like, I'm 12.1 away from you, so nothing can charge me, and then I'm going to move, you can just teleport an aggressive brick next to me and be like, you what? Bang! And the threat of it is real.
The Sanguinor and then Lamarte's plus Death Company are both legitimately good.
Yeah. I'll also give a shout out here. I think Ball Predators are kind of really cheap skirmish tanks that mess up skirmish units.
They're really
cheap.
And they're annoying to kill. They're not like difficult to kill, but you have to put actual guns into them.
Yeah, it's still a tank.
Yeah.
They're also fast. They have the ability to advance and shoot, but when they advance, they can only target infantry. However, that means they can advance in action.
Yep.
Because they can advance and shoot. They just only shoot infantry when they do.
If you're playing a Gladius, you can also just...
Yeah, but like even if you're playing against knights, where you can't shoot them at all after they advance, they can shoot just only infantry, which means they can action.
Yep.
So I actually like Ball Predators a lot for how cheap they are. I imagine that Blood Angels at their peak is probably still Ironstorm or Gladius.
I agree.
Those are the two that I feel like, because I don't think you need to do Vanguard because you don't have like a great CP generator, and then you have the Librarian Dreadnought to kind of mimic it a little bit, which I think is good enough.
I think the big thing here is you really want two Stormhawk interceptors in the Blood Angel list.
Yeah, the plane meta's coming any day now. Any day now.
I think they're legible faction icon.
So they're... I'm not convinced on that. I think they might be upper 5/9. Because, like, I still think, even though I think Blood Angels are better than, like, people give them credit for, I'm not sure... We can put them bottom of legible faction icon. Yeah. I have a feeling that when we fill this out, this is going to end up down a tier.
I guess I've been impressed by Blood Angels, but I guess my problem is that when I think of Blood Angels, I think of, like, the Sanguinor plus Death Company in a regular... Space
yes, which is good. Maybe a Librarian Dreadnought.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. I feel like they're going to end up lower than that. This is just a hunch I have.
Okay, we'll see how it shakes out. But I could also see them being in legible faction.
They could be somewhere here.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of factions ranked still. Yeah. So let's roll right into the next Space Marine chapter.
Black Templars. I think this is probably the second best of the Space Marine chapters.
Might be the best.
It's certainly up there.
The data sheets that you get with Black Templars.
Sword Brethren and Helbrecht, and the fact that all of your like
primary
vehicles get a multi-melta for no reason.
Yeah. It adds up really fast when you just pay like 25 points for 5 multi-melta spread across your vehicles.
It really does, yeah.
I would do that. I used to pay 20 points for 1 multi-melta.
Yeah.
It's like 20 points for 4.
No, the Black Templars, just really solid.
And Sword Brethren adds such a unique element to Space Marine list. I think this is the biggest part of it. Because, I mean, bluntly, Space Marines, Codex, look at Codex Space Marines, don't have good melee units.
They don't.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
As like a vanilla Space Marine
Blade Guard are like, okay.
No, they're not.
They're not. No.
Are they? They're not bad. They're definitely a good enough melee unit to beat up a non-melee unit.
That's what I meant. Like you can go, you can kill like 5 power armor guys, but you're not going to win a fight against like something real.
Yeah, to me, a real melee unit is one that can fight another melee unit.
That's fair.
Otherwise,
Sword Brethren are definitely do
otherwise you're a bully.
Yeah.
And like Blade Guard are a bully because they're a melee unit that beats up trash. Space Marine melee sucks, but then there is the Sword Brethren.
Yeah,
those guys are crazy. They hit so hard. Just choose.
So they're all like different weapons. Yep. So you can't be like there's like one guy. So they all get either +1 attack or +1 damage, which you select at the start of the phase.
Yep.
So it applies to like fight on death.
Yeah.
So there's like one guy with a lightning claw. There's 2 guys with like mastercrafted power swords, which are like damage 3. There's a Thunder Hammer that's damage 3.
And there's a regular?
I think it's a regular power sword.
I think it might be 2 power weapons, 1 mastercrafted power weapon, a Thunder Hammer, a Lightning Claw per 5. And so if you go 10 minutes, it just doubles.
Yeah. And then the really cool thing is their buff applies to any character. So if you add Helbrecht or a captain, Helbrecht sweeps take AP4, damage 2 with like 12 attacks.
Or even like a Judiciar getting +1 damage.
The Jack's Honor of Human Captain that has like 12 attacks at like strength 10, AP3, damage 3, +1 wound, +1 AP. Dev wounds. It was like crazy.
You can get a lot out of them.
Yeah, those guys are like, hey, Avatar, goodbye.
Yeah, and that's just if you look at the data sheets.
Yeah.
Their detachment, Righteous Crusaders, is actually really good too.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Like you can take a great Black
Six
Templar.
of Fuel Pain is a legitimate ability. It's just really good.
That's really good.
The strats are good.
Good stratagems, good enhancements. You give 1 unit a 5-up Feel No Pain. So when your Sword Brethren unit hops out, like, I don't have a 4-up infant like Blade Guard, but I'm cheaper, hit harder, and have a 5-up Feel No Pain. I'm still wearing power armor, so who cares? Take 4-ups half the time anyways.
The 20-man Bricks of Dudes are also really
also good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black Templars, I feel like Black Templars have a minimum of 4 ultra viable builds.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is insane for an index with 1 detachment. But like Righteous Crusader, Big Death Star Brick, and Land Raider.
Yep.
Righteous Crusader, Dude Spam.
Yep.
Gladius, Iron Storm. Let's not even pretend that a Black Templar Firestorm is not also the best Firestorm. But like once you're on the 5th best option for a faction.
Well, I mean, like a lot of it just comes down to the fact that Sword Brethren just hit really, really hard and are fairly cheap.
We haven't even mentioned Crusaders.
Yep.
Crusaders are the cheapest power armor unit in the game, I believe.
I think so. And you get like It's like 2 multi-meltas, melt-a-gun.
You get an Inferno Pistol, Melt-a-Gun, Multi-Melta in a 5-man, whose innate rule is reroll advances and charges.
Yeah.
And then there's a Power Fist, and everyone else gets like chain swords. And it's like ultra cheap. It's like 65.
But like you put 2 of those squads in a Rhino.
Yeah, and it's just
It's
2
two
multi-meltas
multi-meltas
out the top.
yeah.
And then they advance out with OC2 or go reroll charges out when they need to go contest things.
Yeah.
In a Firestorm where that advances and shoots, it's like hilariously good. In Iron Storm where it gets a reroll on something, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Every layer of what Black Templar data sheets can do is great, and then they have a good attachment.
Yep.
I personally think this is the best Space Marine army.
Oh, definitely. It's this or Ultramarines, but I think it's probably this.
I think it's this. Like, I'm just being like, obviously I have a bias. I love my Ultramarines. I think this is better, just because we'll talk a little bit more about Ultramarines when we talk about Space Marines. But Black Templars to me are like top of where we currently have legible faction icons. Like I think they're like right up there.
No, you definitely. They honestly could. You could make a real argument that they're up in pointy headgear.
Yeah, if they had pointy headgear, they might be there. Unfortunately, they don't have pointy headgear, so they're not quite there, but I'm conflicted about it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really looking at that like, I don't know, does that have pointy headgear?
They might.
They really
might.
They really do. Black Templars are phenomenal, I think.
Yeah. The thing is, they also have options, which is big.
Yeah. Like, if I had found, if Jack hadn't written a list before I did, I'd probably be playing it.
Yeah.
But, he got there first, I got my own place, and now there's pride on the line. But it's very strong. Yeah, they're just Space Marines with better data sheets, more Melta, and more punch.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Let's get on to Chaos Knights. I love me some Chaos Knights.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about Chaos Knights.
I think they're awesome. But
They're really
but occasionally they're not.
They're so every time I played Chaos Knights, the game is like really scary, really scary, really scary, and then all of a sudden there's 6 dogs left and they cease being an effective force.
That does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, Chaos Knights are very good at scoring during those turns.
Yes.
You almost have to have demon allies to help with the secondary
You
part.
really do. But OC8 on all of your dogs is really good.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and also, I don't think we've actually said this. We are primarily ranking this for singles play.
Yes.
An army's like ability to function in teams is a nice add-on, but it's not the primary fact that we're judging on here. Because like in singles play, Chaos Knights should just take some demon allies. It's not a question.
Yeah.
Like you just do it. Like half the time otherwise if you don't, you're just gonna end up with 40 points left over and nothing to do with it anyway. So
one of your dogs gets slightly more expensive, but also worse.
Yeah. So I think Chaos Knights are quite solid. They've been able to put some good results together. Their win rate is pretty fine. They've been able to win several events. I know like Lucas Troller has won, I think, multiple GTs in the Pacific Northwest with Chaos Knights since their last balance update.
Yeah.
I think they're really fun to play. Because I love dogs. But I don't think that they're like crazy good, but I feel like they're above average. I think that Chaos Knights are an army that
I feel like
has more potential than is shown because it's very tempting to play Chaos Knights and just be like, I have big dumb spiky robots and run at people, and if you do that, you're gonna lose half the time.
I think, to me at least, Chaos Knights and Blood Angels occupy like a similar competitive rank.
Yeah, I personally think Chaos Knights are like a shimmy better.
I don't know.
Man, I really like Carnivores going through walls with OC8.
That's true, but the Sanguinar is also really dumb.
Yeah, but he's OC1. I really like Brigands pointing AP5 Melta-Guns at people who think Redemptors are tough.
The AP6 and
Sure. I don't know. So Chaos Knights they're one of these two.
Absolutely.
They're not pointy headgear.
No, they're not codex.
Yeah, all the spikes are on their shoulders.
Yeah.
They're not in desperate need of a codex.
No.
My inclination, honestly, is that they're ahead of Blood Angels, but it's close.
So I think we should put both in legible faction icon or move both down to 5/9. To me, I think they're the same.
Yeah. For me, it's that Chaos Knights are putting up better results.
That's fair.
And like at the end of it, yes, the potential of a Blood Angel Gladius is definitely not bad, but we can't only rank off of potential if 3 months in it's not like
doing anything.
I've seen people do well with Blood Angel Gladius. I've seen individual games with Blood Angel Gladius where I've been impressed. I have not seen I haven't seen Blood Angel Gladius winning multiple events, and I've seen Chaos Knights win a couple events.
Okay, so let's move Blood Angels down.
Haha. Chaos Knights very well may join them.
Yes.
We're putting them in order at the moment. We'll probably at the halfway point stop, readjust, and redo things. But yeah.
Chaos Space Marines.
Okay,
Should we put on a funny headgear now?
we can. There are often horns and spikes on the headgear of a Chaos Space Marine if they're not bald.
This
And if
guy's
they
got-
are bald,
They have cool top knots.
they might have a top.
Those are
knot.
like pointy. You can kill someone with that.
You can. Or sometimes they have spikes on their heads anyways.
Yeah.
Or spikes in their top knots. Abaddon's top knot has spikes in it. Spikes all around.
Do you think he ever used this as a weapon? Like, you think
I do not
he
think so.
like he does like the epic like hair flip and just like kill people?
It seems unlikely. I don't think Abaddon actually does that much killing.
Yeah.
And he like shows up when there's like one Space Marine captain with like a bullet in his leg, like surrounded by guys, and Abaddon's like, "All right, buddy, you know it's coming next." He's like, "Here is the soul destroyer of worlds, the sword that does all the work for me." Whap. All right. Your skull goes on the shoulder pad. Good job. I think that's how Abaddon fights.
It'd be a pretty cool place to have be a skull though. Like of all the places in the 41st millennium,
I would like
a
to
skull,
be next to Yarick on Angron's codpiece.
Yeah.
To choose. That's where I would like my skull to be. So let's talk about CSM. They are very,
Very good.
very good.
The problem is they do too much damage,
Uh-huh.
and they're too durable, and they're too fast, and they're too cheap. They just play 40k too well.
Yeah, I have strong opinions on CSM. I've played them enough. I think I've played them. God, I've played them 8 times in my last 12 tournament games.
Yeah.
On my count. It's been super fun. Chaos Space Marines are really just hard hitting. I think it's like the single defining aspect of Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
Is that they hit so effing hard. Where it's just one of those things where like any unit that I see looks like it's just obliterating everything in front of
Well,
it.
it's the ability to pick any unit in your army, more or less. I know it's not actually works, but feel like this. Pick any in your army and be like, they have sustained hits or lethal hits and also full rerolls.
Yeah.
But it's like, you don't, you just like on command go, or I don't pay any resources really, that unit has exploding fives.
Yeah. Like CSM has a clear and defined best build. They also have a build that was so good that we thought it was the best build in the game before the next best CSM list came out. And we're like, wow, it honestly felt like watching the evolution of Chaos Space Marines from, wow, this is such a good list, to, oh my god, this is such a good list, to, oh my god, how did we not see this was the best list?
Yeah.
Because it was just every single step of the CSM list development was, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Accursed cultists are insanely cheap board control that hits very hard and is too fast.
Why are they OC2?
And they're so hard to kill.
And they come back too fast.
Nurgle guns
Yeah.
are so hard to interact with for so many factions who physically can't stop them from like doing what they do. And then there's Nurgle transports behind walls, which can't die to indirect, can't be appropriately charged because they're full of chosen. And if you charge a rhino when you kill it, who cares? You just lost a rhino killing unit to chosen.
Yep.
Can't be shot from long range. You can't go wrap them because an accursed cult is going to heroic you.
Yep.
Like there's
no good
there is
way of
no good answer to kill a rhino and a cursed cultist behind a wall on objective.
There's just not.
Most people just can't deal with that ball. It's like, oh no, a lost condition, bummer.
Yeah.
And it's wild. Everything hits hard. Forge Fiends hit insanely hard. The fact that Obliterators are the datasheet they are and probably don't make the best list in the game, like the best CSM list.
I think you do take one squad of 4 Obliterators simply because it's good in the mirror. But
That's
like,
fair.
you
But what's it good at?
it's good at killing a cursed cultists. Because you drop down with the damage 2 profile and it's blast. So you get super blast and you're just like, what?
Then so did Forge Fiends.
What?
So did Forge Fiends.
That's fair.
Also do blast.
Yeah. Sorry, we have multiple broken units.
Multiple like insane blast things, and then you stack things, and and you can just box out a game it's very good at fixed secondaries, because once you completely dominate every primary objective, you just cleanse homers while waiting for someone to come up to you. And if someone comes up to you, you drop 2 points on cleanse and table them.
Yeah.
And it's like, fair enough. I got a 98. Good job, Chief.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely hate Manny's list, and I hate the fact that unambiguously it's just like the best thing in the game. It's really good.
It's so strong.
Yeah.
It is a hard list to put changes on, because it's so good. All these things, for me, it's the combination of it. So what kills me with CSM is that so many different armies in the game right now have like a buff. And it applies on X unit. It does X and it does Y if it's on this thing.
Yep.
Like some armies have you do X, or if it's a Phobos unit, it does Y. Or like this only works for Gratis units, or this only works for Battle Line units, like Admech. And everyone has this, and with CSM, it's marks.
Yeah.
And you just choose. Yeah. It'd be like if Admech started the game off by in list design, tell me if your unit has vehicle, infantry, battle line.
Yep.
Which one of those do you want to be? Get all the buffs. Like,
but also you can combine them, so like you get all the benefits of Nurgle by having a Nurgle Rhino, and all the benefits of Undivided by having an Undivided unit in the Rhino.
Oh yeah, then you get transport stack, which is ludicrous.
Yeah.
That's one of the many changes.
If you put like Slaanesh Noise Marines in a Nurgle Rhino and you pack the Rhino with your Noise Marines get exploding 5s, yeah.
Like it's not even just the Undivided. Like on a balance perspective, it's worse that Undivided Chosen can go in a Nurgle Rhino. What personally pisses me off the most is that you can have a Blastmaster with the Nurgle keyword getting sustained 5s and shooting. That makes me mad, because I like Slaanesh and it's like, how dare you stink up my perfect Noise Marines? CSM makes a very compelling case to be the best army in the game. There is a contender, so we're going to save that conversation for when that army comes up. But like objectively, Chaos Space Marines have an insanely high win rate. They have won multiple super majors, including probably the most difficult event of 10th edition so far.
I would say so.
Like, you know, the World Championships of Warhammer.
Very difficult.
Indeed it was. I'm an expert. Was won by Manny with CSM, and they've also won. I think they also won LGT. So I think it has won the biggest tournament of 10th.
Yep.
I think they have won what was probably one of or the hardest event of 10th edition.
I would also bet like $150 that CSM is going to win LVO.
150.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to bet against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like no, it's a good bet.
It's a good bet. Like CSM probably. Yeah, I would honestly, if I were to pick a faction to win LVO, I would be picking CSM.
The Disgusting Resilient podcast, which is a wonderful podcast, makes a good point in chat. Is that CSM's Cloud of Flies strat is being loan off, and the Death Guard strat being -1 to hit is like a perfect summation of why CSM is really good.
But CSM is also -1.
Yeah, no, it's the same strat, but if you're Nurgle, you get loan off.
Just CSM top to bottom. Their stratagems set might be the best 1 through 6 in the game.
Absolutely.
I don't think that they have the single best strat in the game. I still think that's Phantasm.
Yeah.
But stratagem suite 1 through 6,
by far.
probably this is the best attachment in the game.
Eldar have Phantasm, amazing. Lightning Fast or Fire and Fade, amazing. The rest are fine.
Yeah.
CSM is
This is just spam those.
Yeah.
Right?
But these are all really good.
Yeah. They really really are. And because the power of the book isn't in a single data sheet, it's rules that you put on the best data sheet. Yeah. It's a little hard to fix. That doesn't mean GW can't. I'm sure there's a CSM codex coming out at some point soon-ish in the next 6 months. It's on the timeline. I don't know when it's coming out.
Yeah.
So there's we'll kind of see what they do with CSM.
Yeah.
But I could really see this just still being a case where if you told me if you just came to me from the future from 2 months and you said, now CSM players are winning super majors with Land Raiders and Possessed, and just a couple Demon Allies and Venom Crawlers and Vindicators, I'd be like, yes,
that makes sense.
That makes sense. Because I played a game this last weekend against Possessed and Venom Crawlers. I'm like, wow.
They're good.
When you put full rerolls
on anything
or sustained 5s on these data sheets that are not top tier CSM at the moment, they're still pretty good.
Well, yeah, CSM are also one of those factions that is hard to nerf because you said, the codex is very deep.
Yeah.
So there's just a bunch of really good options.
There's a bunch of good stuff in CSM, which is hilarious because like last edition, it felt like CSM had no guns at all. And suddenly it's like, wait, every single thing is a good shooting unit. How did this happen?
The random combo weapons and everything actually also start to add up.
Yeah, that is like, it's one of those things that you don't appreciate until you get shot by it.
Like, it's really annoying.
You know, like the Rhino like rolls up and they're like, well, there's 2 combi weapons inside, and
there's
there's a combi
45.
weapon on the tank.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, oh, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. It's CSM are a lot right now. They're either on top or they are top 2. I don't think there's any conversation that they're below the top 2, and we'll find out where they rank.
Yep. Adeptus Custodes, an army that was really good, but got like the veteran triple nerf.
Yeah, they took that triple nerf, yeah, because they got size point, like unit, they got rules in 2 different aspects, and then a points nerf, which was rough. They're still not like terrible.
No.
They were very high. They were probably top 3 army in the game for a little bit, maybe top 4, and then they got dropped a lot, but they didn't get dropped to death. They're not wearing Death Guard hand-me-downs.
No, they're not. They're probably top of Codex 1.
Yeah, I still think that they're a firmly below average army. I think they just have problems, and it's one of those things where if there are too many armies above you that you say, well, I can beat these, but I can't play against this. If there's one of those, you can be like 5-9.
Yeah.
If there's one of those and you're good into everything else, you can pretend to be legible. But if there's like too many of those, it doesn't matter if you're good into a lot of the stuff ahead of you. If there's like 4 things you can't play against, it's like, all right, sorry. Because there's just some things where I just like watch Custodes play and I'm like, wow, you are not able to deal with this specific problem.
Yep.
Where it's like Custodes really hate like transports behind walls that have an amount of screening too.
Yeah.
Because like, oh yeah, you can fight first anyways. The accursed cultists charge you, base up every unit. The chosen charged one guy who wants to fight first.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, you kill the chosen.
The Rhino bases all the guys, right?
Yeah, and just like also you're getting shot by the combo weapons on the way in, and it's like, oh geez. You kill 2 chosen, then the Lord activates, scoops the squad, and you're like,
because he's damaged 3 dev wounds.
Yeah.
Bung, 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 bung.
Well, I guess I'm going to charge them and hope he doesn't pop off on the final death.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, and like Eldar Night Spinners, horrible.
I think the Codex one.
I think they're definitely better than AdMech.
Absolutely.
They're definitely better than AdMech. They also, by the way, completely hate playing against Astral Militarum. And you know what? Like when you're getting, because there's going to be at least something in every tier above them that is going to look at Custodes and be like, no. But also, Custodes are very good at what they're good at.
Yeah.
Which is that if you can stage Custodes infantry behind walls while vaguely scoring points, going and dealing with them is
really
a
annoying.
nightmare for so many people. So some armies, sometimes it's a weird thing with Custodes. Like sometimes you have Custodes who just get dribbled like a basketball by an army. And then sometimes you are like, wow, I can't believe that Custodes just beat Space Marines by 50 points because the Custodes player got behind walls on objectives and Space Marine player was like,
Yeah.
Like, oh god.
What are you going to do, charge them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with Custodes. But even though they're in Codex when, I think they're the very upper end of it. And also, we know when Codex when. Codex soon.
It's like really soon, yeah.
I think that Custodes are one of the next 3 or 4. I don't remember the order of the roadmap.
I know the Custodes and Tau, Orks,
spring 24 is what they're advertised as. So maybe it's February, maybe it's April.
Who knows?
I'm pretty sure spring ends in April, maybe May.
May?
I don't really know in seasons.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
I think
it's April.
Yeah, April.
I don't know. Maybe it'll drop on my birthday. Who knows? But Custodes are, I think, just missing a couple things. But the main thing I think is that the dev wound change was so bad for them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really that Custodes are a 5-9 army that has one too many bad matchups, is where I feel like they're at. Like, if you just took away 1 or 2 of the things that dribble them, they can play a lot of the field fine.
I think if you gave them back the
field of
pain against mortals, they'd be fine.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, they get dribbled by anti-infantry death wounds.
Yep.
They hate night spinners. They really don't like good combat armies that can tie them up first.
Yep.
Because that's their whole shtick is they stand by walls. But if you have a world leader's army that can charge a Rhino or a Berserker in before the 8-bound or before Engron, then it's just like, oh, this is no longer sustainable.
Yeah.
So I think they're just like one or two things, which means that I think that they're actually a lot better in teams than singles. Because if you're a decent army with a couple bad matchups and you can avoid it, you're happy. But I think singles play it just keeps them a little bit too down because it really it changes their ability to win at events. Because I think it's a lot harder for custodians to make a run to win an event.
I agree.
Yeah. Next up is demons.
They're also not great.
They are also not great. I think they're worse than custodians for what it's worth. They're so hard to judge right now.
They have weird, cool tricks. They're incredible allies. They're the best allies in the game.
They're great allies. But we're judging them on their merit here. This is primary demon faction.
I feel like they're missing a big monster. They took pretty hard nerfs, and they probably didn't need it.
They took harder nerfs than was needed. It definitely felt. Demons is a weird army because I often fool myself into thinking demons are good. Because I read their rules, and their rules look like they should be good. And they can sometimes win games because if you just like take a couple monsters in Bellicor, sometimes people just lose their minds. Yep. They're like, I can't
shoot this. What?
Yep. And so could like anything could happen. But I feel like demons don't do enough damage, aren't resilient enough.
They don't have an armor save, which is cute. But also, like, sometimes your opponent is like, wow, all of my strength 5 bolters are suddenly really good into you.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, just because different profiles are good to demons than normal, sometimes it's like, oh my god, I can't kill anything. Everything is a 4-up endpoint. And then sometimes it's, wait a minute, this thing is a 4-up armor save? Whatever, dog. Yeah. Cover doesn't matter. Like, you start cranking that, like, lethal hits las guns or something, and it's like, this is better than a melter gun.
Like, swooping Orks are, like, a terrifying weapon to the demons.
20 Termagants in the Unending Swarm average, like, 12 or 13 damage to a greater demon. It's just like, anyways, here's a bunch of strength 3 AP 0 damage, 1 twin linked lethal 5 shots. Yeah. And you're like, oh god, that's the worst. It's hard to rank demons. I think that they're firmly below average.
I think they're
worse than Adepta.
Yeah, no, they are.
I think they are. And again, anything in Codex when can be played well. I think demons actually just
like an exit 1.
Yeah, I think they went 5-1 at the Denver Fight Club event last weekend.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. I think it was like a Keeper, Guo, and Bellicor list, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes, Soul Grinders require bases in WTC, which significantly limits their ability to move because the assigned base that they go on is ginormous. It is comical.
They're on a soccer puck.
They're on a deflated soccer ball. Like, it's bad, the whole soccer puck right there.
The whole soccer
puck. Yeah, I think demons, they've got cool mission play tricks, but I think that they don't do quite enough damage most of the time, and I don't think they do have quite enough defense to resist that if someone says, oh, you're playing the mission well, let's fight. Yeah. I think that's a problem. 160
demons are very easy to
bases.
be like, just stash at them, just like run at them.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Yeah, right now. Yeah. Poor demons. Let's go on to Dark Angels, shall we?
Dark Angels.
So yet again, we are talking about a Space Marine chapter. We're going to judge it on its best. And the Dark Angels, are good in that. Dark Angels, the inexorable task force. No, not inexorable. What is it? Unforgiven task force. Thank you. I don't know.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think it's got some good tricks in it.
It does. I think it's better than Gladius.
I personally agree. I think that it's like, oh, this isn't bad, but I would probably rather be a Gladius or a Vanguard. Yeah. I think that, like, I think with Dark Angels, you're just looking at the data sheets as, like, these are solid, above average Space Marine data sheets. You have the best Terminator in the game.
The Deathwing Knight's crazy.
Yeah, Deathwing Knights are a better Terminator than any other Terminator, and so if you want to make a Terminator build, you go Dark Angels. Yeah. Because it's a -1 damage Terminator with a actually much better than it initially reads melee profile. Yep. And that's better than taking Terminators.
And the Gladius with +1 to wound, +1 AP, they become terrifying.
That's really well. Actually does quite well in a Vanguard where you can infiltrate them. Asriel is an amazing support character.
Yep. Asriel and Hot Blasters is great.
Yep. Like, you've got...
He can join Company Heroes now, right?
He can. And you can all Talon Masters. Also really, really good support.
The lion's not bad.
The lion is not.
He's not bad. He's not great.
He might be bad.
I don't think he's bad.
He's not great.
You only have 3 minimum minus 1 hit wound, right?
I get it, but like he's a 10 wound model that just takes death wounds like a guy. Who
Oh, he doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. He's bad.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, I was still in my head. He had a 4 penalty pain against death wounds.
Yeah, he doesn't.
No.
I'm sure he did the last time you played against him.
I have not played against the lion actually.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of good data sheets in Dark Ages.
Yes.
I think the Unforgiven Task Force is a cool side grade to Gladius that is probably very slightly worse, but has enough cool tricks that if you practice it, you could get equal or better results still. But the data sheets are the strength here, and so this is a just like a Space Marine upgrade.
Faction.
I definitely think this is legible.
Yeah,
definitely think it's legible.
I think it's like.
I actually think it's a little better than Chaos Knights, but not significantly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's just if you want to build in a direction that those data sheets benefit, which is, do you want either a better, land speeder in the Vengeance, because it's better than any of the Storm Speeders. Talon Masters are a good support piece if you do that, or you can build for Deathwing Knights.
Deathwing Knights are just crazy.
Yeah, Deathwing Knights are just great. If you're taking an army that wants infantry and you put Deathwing Knights in, it is the best thing outside of Sword Brethren. I do think this is worse than Black Templars.
I fully agree.
But you get access to data sheets that are better at what they're good at than the Space Marine equivalents in multiple directions. So if you either want build into flying vehicles, land speeder vengeances, and Talon Masters, or build into infantry, Deathwing Knights, and then you just have Asriel as, while I'm here, here's a not that expensive special character who does more than his points.
Yep.
Awesome. Great. I love me some Asriel, by the way.
He's really good.
And the Lion model's sweet, so they get a bonus point for that, even though he's not actually seeing the table, it just lets you paint him.
Yeah.
He's not bad.
His book is really good too.
Oh, I haven't read his book yet, so no spoilies. I'm sure he kills at least one CSM, and that's all that matters.
There's a really awesome scene on a bridge, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
I didn't know there was a bridge in this. Quinton, you spoiled that for me. I hate you.
We don't know which kind of bridge it is.
Dang it. All right. Dark Angels, solidly above the Space Marine average.
Yes.
And it's an upgraded, like, you'd rather take Dark Angels than not take a chapter. So that's that. Let's go Death Guard. Biggest winners of September.
Hot take, legible faction icon.
Cold take, legible faction icon.
They're just really good.
Yeah, I think they are
really
good. I honestly,
I think they're
maybe
I think they're better
they
than
could be
Sisters.
anywhere in this. Better than Sisters, maybe. Honestly, yeah.
Sisters,
I do think they're worse than Templars.
Yes, they. Here's the thing about Death Guard. And this is what I tell people when they're like, "Why are Death Guard good?" If you are a Space Marine and you are holding a bolter, and you shoot at another Space Marine, well, you hit them on 3s, and you win them on 4s, and they both do armor save. Cool. If you're a Death Guard bolter, you hit them on 3s, and you win them on 3s, and they have 4 armor save. And that math is wildly different. And it just plays out a million times. And what always happens is my opponent will ask me my profiles, and I'm like, yeah, cool. So the melee weapon, they're like, strength 8, AP 2, damage 2. I'm like, that's not that scary. And then I'm like, well, you're -1 toughness, and you're -1 armor save, and then I'm going to pay 1 CP for +1 AP, so now I'm AP 4, and I have lethal 5s from this funky character, and I'm going to throw a grenade at you, and then I'm going to throw 3 more grenades at you, so now you take 12 mortal wounds, and then these all wound on 5s to hit.
The damage adds up to Death Guard. Like, the things that you ignore can't be ignored in other factions. It's one of those weird things where, like, Power Fists. I don't care about Power Fists when I'm playing with Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Yeah. Death Guard Power Fists.
You really actually
do care about. And it's like, dang it, I didn't think this was going to happen to me. And then it does.
The other big thing is that the Plague Marines holding weapons, and Plague Marines are really propping this faction up right now, are like, a lot of times like +1 to wound AP1 over where they should be, and they just hit way harder than they should.
Yep. The Contagions ad that Death Guard got was such...
And the fact that you can flex it, so if you're like, oh, I'm playing demons, cool, you're -1 to hit army line.
Yep. Yeah, your -1 hit melee is -1 save, obviously big when it matters. The -1 OC one is very occasionally relevant.
Yep.
I'm actually always terrified of people picking that when I'm playing like my Tyranids or something. Where I just like assume every Tyranid that goes out has done with death. And like, sure, occasionally they live when they shouldn't, because Tyranids are actually a little tougher than they look. But I'm always like scared that there's going to be like a -1 OC and then Nerlictors can't hold objectives anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, there's a lot of OC1 in Tyranids. A lot of OC1. It's embarrassing.
I think I think that I go with the AP a lot just because it
Killing
gives the
things.
killing power. Because like the even stuff like the havoc charges and combo weapons on your top of your rhinos, all of a sudden when they have extra AP, just are like terrifying.
Just adds up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very scary, and I've definitely felt it. Where it's like,
The-
oh no, I went from a 2-up to a 3-up. Oh god, that means that cover doesn't
Doesn't
work the
matter
way I
anymore.
want it anymore.
Yeah.
Wow, it's actually added up a lot.
Yeah. When you take the Plague Scrawlers and you add the strat, and then they're all of a sudden they're like AP3, ignores cover, hitting on 2s, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can get really weird. Yeah, they have, I think, a fairly playable matchup into a lot of the top stuff.
I think they're favorite in Eldari.
They have some weird problems sometimes because
Yeah.
they're still a slow-moving army.
They're not
have-
perfect.
They're propped up by allies.
They really the break-ins and nurglings are like required to make Death Guard work.
Yep. But they do,
Yes.
and that counts.
Yes. There's no joy in your heart than walking up and shooting someone with an AP6 melt-a-gun.
Yeah, hitting that arm of contempt redemptor, and it's
You
like,
don't get a save.
oh, yeah, it's rough out there, man. Like, Death Guard, I've only played against them a couple times. Yeah, OC is one of those stats that can be reduced to 0. That's like, because they left that as like off of the limit list because of Battle Shock, because you can't obviously not be able to be reduced to 0, because then Battle Shock wouldn't work. So then you can just go from OC1 to OC0 because of -1 OC.
Yeah, when
That's
those few times when your
really
opponent
bad.
has like no OC2, you're like, you don't control the objectives ever.
Yeah, like you don't get to, like, you cannot contest this Rhino. It's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like, what is my plan here? It gets really weird. So yeah, I like, honestly, I like Death Guard that high up. Like, we've seen them played very well. We've seen them put up good event results. I don't think that they've put up like the super major win yet, but
No.
they've placed well at super majors. and
Liam
they've definitely
BSL
won.
went 7-1 at Worlds.
Yeah, I've seen Death Guard do well at multiple events now. They have a good number of cool data sheets. I think that Allies is like peak, like the Liam VSL billet, I think is probably the best Death Guard that I've seen, but I'm not a Death Guard expert or player, so I just kind of judge it off.
I have really tried. I can't think of a list that's like better without being like within 100 points of it. Right? You can shift some points around. You can shift some more gear, but like
You can
it's the
always
same
do that.
core.
Oh, the Contagion says minimum of 1 OC. Oh, well, good to know. Well, fair enough.
I knew they never took it.
Well, then that's why people don't take it against me. See, I was always just scared of that, and I never asked them if it was possible. Well, thank you, chat. Because yeah, everyone always takes the minus one.
The minus one. It's the best one. Yeah.
All right, so Death Guard really good. Let's stick on the death.
Deathwatch.
Go with the watch.
They were really good.
They were.
Now they're not.
Their detachment unfortunately got its guts ripped out.
It really did.
Because you run into a very weird situation with what you want to take in Deathwatch, where you can just look at the data sheets and say, okay, well, I'll just put these data sheets in a normal space for detachment. And I think that is not bad, because you can just say, hey, the Watchmaster is kind of like an epic hero that can take an enhancement, because he's got like a cool rules. He comes with a Vect, which I actually really like. He's the Warlord, so you like one Watchmaster is good. The Proteus kill team is quite solid, and those are really the data sheets you care about. Is like, that's kind of it. Like, maybe, that's most of what you care about.
Yeah.
The rest of it is like cute, but you don't need it. Deathwatch detachment feels like it really doesn't know what it's trying to do anymore. It definitely had a plan when it came out, but now you run into the problem where Deathwatch unique units that are best are packing a bunch of like hammers and frag cannons and stuff because free war gear.
Yep.
And
But
then
the
strats don't
matter.
work.
Yeah.
So the strats for Deathwatch, the 3 different ammunition strats got FAQ to bolt gun equivalents only.
Yeah.
And so you are like, oh, this only works on like bolter inceptors and aggressors, kind of. And then you're like, okay, well, what units am I taking in this detachment? You realize it's none of that.
Yep.
You can take bolter inceptors, and you should, because they're awesome.
Yeah. But then why are you not taking a Vanguard?
Yeah. Like, are you doing it just for the strats? Like, it's not bad. But then like the actual like Deathwatch data sheets don't do much.
Yeah.
And that's really painful. I do like that you can do like you can do like this weird combo of Vanguard and CSM where you have a 6-man teleporting Centurion unit that doesn't get the shooting strap, but gets to teleport every turn, and that's super dope.
Yeah.
And then you have 10-man power armor units advancing and charging out of rhinos and hitting harder than they should. But they cost a little bit more than Chosen. They hit very slightly less hard than Chosen. They shoot better than Chosen, but they're 2 wounds a model. And the character that make them works doesn't hit as hard as the Lord and is a little more expensive.
Yeah.
And so you end up in a weird spot where it's very much like you're using Deathwatch to copy 2 of the better armies in the game.
But
and
you're doing either one well.
You're doing both of them like fine.
Yeah.
You're not doing either of them well. I'd agree with you there. So I think Deathwatch still have a little bit more play than it might look. But they very much, their identity is in a hard place right now. Because it's really a struggle to like use all the rules in their detachment. Because like I feel like what you do in an ideal Deathwatch build is you do like 2 rhinos with veteran squads with a watchmaster and at least one of them, maybe both, maybe the other one has a captain. Then you have the teleporting scent unit, and then you have bolter and scepters to kind of use those strats, and that's the list.
Yes.
And that's good, but it doesn't synergize nearly as well as it could.
It's really it feels like they had like you said at the beginning, they had a plan, and now they just don't.
They just made it. They made the plan too good, and instead of changing the plan, they like
made it so you can't.
Yeah, they scraped the stuffing out of the Oreo, and you're just left with 2 halves.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, like I can still like hold the 2 halves of an Oreo together with my hands.
Yeah.
And then I can eat it, and it's like, yeah, the 2 halves of the Oreo
fine
are
cookie,
fine. It's
yeah.
a fine cookie. I eat it when I'm done licking the stuffing off.
Why it's not?
But it's like they're selling it without
stuffing.
the stuffing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's not quite there. So
Are they Death Guard hand-me-downs?
no, I think they're better than that because I think you can like pretend to
Do something.
do stuff, but they're
in Codex.
they're codex. They're definitely in
between
codex.
Codex or between Custodes and Admech, probably.
I think I'm fine with that. Yeah, I think I'm fine with that. Because it does feel like you're working way too hard for what you get to do, and it just
Yeah.
but like you can make it work. You can try. Oh no.
I love how we've done like half the factions and we're at D.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't realize how like stacked alphabetically the game was.
Yeah, no. When you start scrolling through the MFM and you're like over halfway down and you're on like E and you're like, oh, okay. Drukhari.
They're really not good.
Drukhari does start with a D.
I think they're a Death Guard hand-me-downs.
Yeah, they are. No argument from John.
The problem with Drukhari,
Yes.
the big one is that your detachment just doesn't do anything. Because you get an extra paint token if you have an Archon, a Homunculus, and a Succubus. Each one gives you 1 paint token. But the problem is that the Archon and the Homunculus are just really bad units. And the Succubus is only okay if you're taking Lilith, and even then she's like fine. I mean, it's an army that is really squishy, not that fast anymore, does not hit in combat.
Nope.
There was a vivid moment where I had Lilith and 5 witches with all the buffs not kill 3 Nurglings in combat. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. But there's also that moment where you kill like 300 points of sisters in like an activation with
like,
5 models. And I was like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah, but like it's a bunch of damage 1 at high AP anti-infantry weapons. Like sisters of battle are like the perfect like thing to fight into with them. But the problem is that like the army is made of paper and does not hold points at all, and doesn't actually shoot that hard, and like just dies. And scourges aren't that awesome.
Yeah, they're really not. Also, like any amount of indirect kill scourge is like a.
But like, it's not even like, oh, if you have 3 PPCs, like if you have 3 mortars from guard infantry squads, scourges start to die. Yeah.
It's rough. Yeah, for me, so like I often hear Drukhari players complain about pain tokens. I personally think pain tokens as a mechanic is perfectly fine. But the problem is that it is eating up both your army rule and your detachment rule.
For a fine rule.
I did not realize that you're like I'm consciously aware of what the Drukhari detachment rule is. It is so negligible that it might as well not be there.
It is the detachment rule is once a game, 1 unit rerolls hits for 1 phase. That's the detachment rule.
Yeah.
Also the strats are like really bad.
Yeah, your detachment is a huge problem. I feel like either you need a new detachment that gives melee buffs, or because Drukhari being bad at melee is a crime.
Yeah, it is.
And they should not be a bad melee army.
But I don't want them to increase the base data sheets because then you already get a problem. I think Drukhari would be helped a lot if what they did was they said paint tokens give you +1 strength and attack, or +1 AP and attack, or something like that, where your combat just gets better if you have a paint token.
I mean, ideally, if I were designing this, every detachment would give a second thing that a paint token does.
That would
like paint token is always reroll hits, and in the real space raid, it's also reroll 1s to wound. And in the blood-slicked sands of the fighting pits, it's +1 to wound in melee only, and nothing in shooting.
That'd be fine.
Like, I don't know, something for melee. But right now, Drukhari, woofs. I'm so used to talking in Death Guard tier, but nope, this is Drukhari in the Death Guard tier without Death Guard.
Yes.
There's not, like, there's an upper limit on how much cheap, useless stuff can win you games, because it can win you games. But there's an upper limit where
the index is comprised entirely of cheap, useless stuff, and there's nothing else that's not cheap, useless stuff.
Yeah. And occasionally people will just be like, I don't care how much stuff you have, I'm putting everything in the open on the objectives, let's fight. And you're just like, oh, why didn't...
I played a game into Nick's Demons, and I had 27 units, but he was killing like 8 a turn.
Yeah.
Because they're all toughness 3, 1 wound, 6 of armor save.
Yeah, like things get like sneezed on by the side flamer of a combat unit as it goes by. And that's a dead unit, charge, kill 2 more units. Like, ugh.
Nick's like, the flamer on the Guo killed like 4 units.
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
Mortarion throws a grenade. The Void Dragon shoots his spectral storm of
it's like
mechanical parts. I don't know.
Like the random crap that doesn't do anything kills full units of Drukhari. Yeah.
That's a problem. So Drukhari in a bad spot right now. They very much feel like they need a Death Guard type update. Where you need to take the detachment, add an entire extra rule to it, and then make stuff cheaper, and then we see where they go.
The problem was Drukhari were the best of the terrible factions.
Yeah, before,
yeah. Because they were better than like Votann and Death Guard, like back in the ye olden days. So.
Yep. And that was the wrong place to be. Right on. Well, we're done with the Dark Eldar.
How about Craft World Kim?
Regular Eldar.
They're really good.
We know the tier they're going to be in.
Yeah, they're definitely up there.
Quinton, would you like to praise Eldar, or shall I roast them?
So I'll praise them for a bit.
There we go.
So I think Eldar are a faction where every unit has one too many rules and is just too efficient. Because you have a combination of everything has fairly low volume of fire and hits on good ballistic skill and has a real hit and wound, and you have fate dice to back it up. Yeah. So the shots you do have are just too efficient and too reliable. And there's a lot of times when you can create a complicated plan that will work 100% of the time, which is difficult to do. Yeah. They're one of the very few 100% guaranteed damage sources in the entire game.
Yeah, Miracle Dice and Dev Wounds being all over the place is a thing.
You have access to Phantasm, which is incredible. You have very good monsters in the avatars. The Incarn has an insane ability. Kane just does too much damage and is too durable. Wraithguard are nuts. The Autarch Leaper, I think, still might be the best one up in the game.
Probably is. I would trade an Ehrlich different for him.
Yeah, he's just too many things all in one package. And then Warp Spiders, Swooping Hawks, and Shadow Specters are all just like crazy bananas good. Yep. The faction's not what it used to be. Oh, and Night Spinners are done. And then all of the various Brightlands platforms are probably still too efficient. Yeah. The faction is no longer there. I am saying this with the full knowledge that they are the best or the second best army in the game. No questions about that. They are not what they used to be. A lot of all Eldar units are too good. They are probably also overcosted. Not for what they do, but for what the army should look like. What I want to see, Eldar do need nerfs. I really want to see them change the data sheets and the rules of the army and not increase the points, because I already feel like the army is too small. Yeah. I want the units to be worse, but to have more of them.
Yeah, I would love that. And as a matter of fact, I don't know who's on it, but next week's tier list is going to be talking about some changes that we'd love to see.
Yeah.
But for right now, I, as a non-Eldar player and a notorious Eldar hater who has occasionally fallen on the dark side and played Eldar, playing against Eldar with most armies is an exercise in insane frustration.
Yes.
Because at any time you have a comparable rule to Eldar, Eldar will just be like, oh, by the way, my version actually does this.
I think the one that I speak a lot about is so a ton of factions have a transport, and if the units get out and the transport shoots at that target, until the end of the phase, that unit that got out gets reels to wound. The Razorback and the Taurox and the Immolator, they all do that.
Yeah.
The Eldar Falcon is to the end of the turn.
And it's probably still just data sheet. Data sheet, the best of those transports.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like the best guns and like deep strikes.
And you still don't take the Falcon.
And you still don't take the Falcon.
Yeah.
Eldar Melt-A-Guns have an extra point of damage.
Yep.
Phantasm is flat 7, where some armies' equivalent rules are d6 inches when you move within 9.
Yeah.
Fire and Fade is a full move, no limits on how far it moves.
Yep.
The data sheet rules that Eldar get, are better than the equivalents elsewhere. Warp Spiders getting to double move every turn is insane. The fact that so many armies have so many data sheets have devastating.
Did I tell you for 3 months I played Warp Spiders Flicker Jump once a game because I just refused to believe.
I played against you with them once a game and we just thought it was once a game.
I just thought it was.
We were still taking them because they were insane.
Yeah.
I assumed it was once a game, and the first time someone did it to me twice, I was like, what in God's green earth are you doing to me right now?
Yeah.
You're lying to me. Nope, it's just whenever you want, choose to move 20 forward.
The other good one is that the Wraithguard shootback is just at any unit, it's not
it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to roll for your CP.
Yeah.
Your relics, your enhancements, everything is in the best possible spot, the best version of the rule. Yeah. And so when you're playing against Eldar, it can feel so demoralizing. Because when you play against Eldar with an army that is 5'9", you're just looking at this and you're like, how, we're doing the same thing, but your unit is cheaper, has 1 lower toughness that didn't affect anything, and your version of the rule is better than mine, and I never got to hit you.
Yeah.
I've played games in the last month with armies that I consider good, where I've played against Eldar and killed a total of 3 units and gotten clowned on. Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know what I was supposed to do differently because I couldn't at any point interact with you. I wasn't allowed to advance. Yeah. I was slower. I was getting shot the whole time. I never shot you back. You shot me with 5 units, and then in my turn, there was nothing in line of sight. Yep. And during the whole thing, there was the one turn where there was something in line of sight because the Incarn was in my deployment zone next to my Warlord. And it can get demoralizing where if you try to, you can't fight fair against Eldar. No. And if you can, suddenly you can beat them. Yeah. Eldar,
if you have a dedicated Eldar beating plan, it's actually not that hard to beat them, but it requires you to have that plan constructed in the list construction phase, not on the tabletop.
Yeah, and that's what kills me with Eldar. It's not that they are unbeatable at the top, because I think
a lot of the armies in Legible Faction Icon and Pointy Headgear actually have favorable matchups into them.
Yeah. But it's that so many armies don't even have a prayer. No. They just are I guess I don't.
Admech, Custodes, Demons, I don't even know
I don't know
where do you begin to beat them.
Yeah. It's so hard to beat Eldar is really where it's at. And so I think we should go ahead and transition into the comparing the top two. Yeah. So my stance on it, and since you play one of these armies, obviously I'm curious to hear what you think. I think we both know the other person's take right now, is that Eldar, you can beat them if you can get them into a fair game, but it is so hard to get them there, and for some armies it's impossible. Yes. CSM, if you get them into a fair game, you are going to get beat into the dirt. Yeah. If you play a fair game with CSM, you are going to get stomped. Yeah. Your skull will be shattered.
CSM just play the game better than you, Eldar playing a different game.
Yeah, and which is better, right? Yeah. Is it better to play rock, paper, scissors where you get access to Spock and the other person doesn't? Yeah. Or is it better to play rock, paper, scissors with a 2-second delay on your opponent's screen? Yeah. What's better, right? I don't know. I'm just sitting here playing rock, paper, scissors.
So one thing to consider, I think, is that if you're taking the best build, I think the Accursed Cultist CSM list is more forgiving. In that, maybe if your player doesn't have it, if you're just picking up the army for the first time, you're taking it to an event, you're just cool, I'm borrowing it from my buddy, I'm going to go take an event. I think you will do better than if you play the Triple Night Spinner Eldar list.
Yep.
Because that list is really, really good, but sometimes you have a bad turn. If you mess up where your units are so you can't phantasm backwards.
If you let your opponent interact with you, Eldar fall apart.
Immediately.
Yep.
Yeah.
If
you are playing really well with it and you don't let your opponent do that, you will win every game. But if your opponent forces interaction with you, or they have a way of doing it, or you just make a mistake, the game falls apart immediately.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, like, I've seen a lot of Eldar players get complacent because they're so used to not being interacted with them. Yeah. That when you can bring the dedicated anti-Eldar, you've got a plan to actually catch them and make them play the game. They start losing units too fast, and the wheels come off, and the thing just crashes into a ditch.
In the moment, like, you lose all your aspect warriors on turn 2, and you're like, oh my god, what a displace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, the Wraithguard brick is the only unit eligible for teleport homers this turn. Yeah. Oh god, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Yeah.
And the points stop coming, and the hits start coming, and they don't stop coming. And it's great. I love it when that happens, but it's hard to get there.
Yes.
But, like, what's better? Is it better to be so good at the game that you beat everyone at it, or is it better to not play the game?
I think it's CSM. I think it's better.
I think so too.
And the reason why is because a lot of times when it comes down to the head-to-head matchup, I'd rather be CSM than Eldar.
I think that there's a couple of top armies that can play into Eldar that have a harder time playing in CSM.
I think more armies play well into Eldar than play into CSM.
I agree. And that's, I think, maybe it's because Eldar have been in their current form for so long, just getting slightly worse, that it's more solved to play against them.
That is, like, a intangible is the fact that the current Eldar list hasn't really changed in the last, 5 months. So everyone who's really good at this game has a ton of reps into it and really knows what they're doing.
Yeah. That is it, is that I think looking at events with a ton of top players, CSM come out on top more often than Eldar. And so against my normal elf-hating instincts, I'm going to leave it where it is right now.
I think that's correct.
I think I'm going to agree with you, which is insane to say because I look at the Eldar rules. I'm like, how does this lose a game?
Yeah.
But CSM sure does have rules too, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, I think Eldar are probably better at beating up the middle of the board and making them feel like they never even had a chance.
I agree.
But, like, when it's top armies on top armies on top armies and everyone there is playing really well, and again, we saw this at Worlds, where there was, I think, 3 CSM, 2 Eldar in the top 8.
That sounds right.
No, I think it was 3 CSM, 1 Eldar. Then it was 3.
Arn made it.
Arn made it, and I think.
And then there was like another Eldar player. There was 2 Eldar players because there's a guy who led the Harlequin troop in the boat, which that was really cool.
I thought it was 2 Space Marine players. Oh yeah, it's 2 Space Marine players, 1 Necron.
1 Necron.
Yeah, 2 Eldar, 3 CSM. Yep, that was it. Okay. But then we also saw that CSM. All 3 CSM mid players made it to top 4, none of the Eldar did. Because when it was top players on top players, CSM came out ahead.
Good way of looking at it. I legitimately, genuinely don't know what Eldar do against the maximum across cultist span.
That is fair.
I truly just don't know what to do.
Yeah, if it's top, the very peak tippity toppity CSM should be peak tippity toppity Eldar more often than not.
Yep.
Most missions, most deployments, most terrain, probably wins. Yeah, I think that's it. Next up is the Grey Knights.
So I really thought Grey Knights were really good, and I liked them. And then I learned how to play against them quite a bit, and my impression of them has gone down.
I agree. I think that they have a high ceiling still.
Yes.
But they are very hard to play well. They still, I think, struggle into a couple of the top things, even if you play them well.
Yeah.
And they have so much room for, oops, my opponent made a 9-inch charge, I needed them to not. Or, oops, I failed the 6-inch charge.
Or, oops, my Terminators with strict 6 just didn't kill what they should have.
Yeah, like, I charged with lethal hits, no rerolls to hit, and I didn't roll many 6s, and now I have to roll wounds, and that didn't go well either. There's not a lot of backup plans on the damage, which is low. I've seen people put their entire turn into, let's see how the Librarians roll a 1 on the 3 dice, not kill the thing, because they did, no 6s and a 1 on 3 dice, which, that happens. That's just a thing that will happen almost half the time.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, I did, 6 or 7 mortals to the thing, and then I shot Stormbolters, and that didn't kill it.
Yep.
And then the plan failed. I feel like there's slightly too many failure points in Grey Knights right now. There's 1 or 2 too many bad matchups. They're definitely not a Death Guard hand-me-down.
No, they might Codex.
think they're 5'9".
No, that's probably I'd put it like beside Codex, between custodes and Deathwatch.
Yeah, I think that's probably this is about the right ballpark, honestly. Yeah. Yeah, I think that Grey Knights are close because they have such a good detachment.
Yeah.
Their detachment rules are insane.
Really good.
Their data sheets don't do enough damage, and they might have enough units, they might not, but it's just not quite reliable enough, and the meta is a little too hostile for them right now. There are more screens because as people bring more of like Hypercrypt and Space Marines with Inceptors,
You see a
people
lot
just
more
take
infiltrators,
screens
a
and
lot more
infiltrators.
random techno-archaeologists. that kind of
And
stuff.
boy, do Grey Knights hate being catching that stray.
Yeah.
And then again, when people are building to kill Chosen and everyone just happens to have 3 damage anyways. Also, this is a big one. We started seeing rules where if you like deep strike or disembark with a 9, it doesn't count as having ended a normal move, and now Mist of Demas doesn't work anymore because that's the ruling that's coming down. And suddenly you're like, how would you play Grey Knights against heavy Inceptor lists?
Lose.
Yeah, like that's that's
'Cause
what I think would happen.
Plasma Inceptors have most of a unit of guys like every time.
Yeah, that's it hurts real bad.
Yeah.
So like I feel like suddenly they're in trouble, and they score well, but they don't score perfectly.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get boxed out and run out of units and can't do actions anymore. And if someone just clears out the chaff too fast while they don't do enough damage, then it's just a huge problem. So I think Grey Knights are just a little short in a couple levels. They have that ability to play up still. I think a good player can still get very good results with Grey Knights, but I feel like a good player with Grey Knights is still going to run into a CSM like a CSM problem at some point. They
are good now.
Yeah, they actually are quite good in Eldar. But like I don't know if Grey Knights love playing against I don't think Grey Knights would particularly enjoy playing against Templars or Deathwatch. I haven't seen that matchup. I don't think that they want to play against CSM in any capacity.
Nope.
I feel like a Forge Fiend in reserves and one on the table is like, oh wow, this sucks.
Also Chosen to just go for an end charge that you can't really punish.
Yeah, like because you can't really push on them.
No.
And if the Chosen and the Cursed Cultist manage to push up, Stormbolters stunningly aren't good into a Cursed Cultist, even though they sound like they should be.
Yep.
Because they really do sound like they should be, but somehow they're not.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, am I just waiting, or am I going to go hit the screens, which I probably could kill in combat, and then stand next to you just disembark the Chosen from the Rhino, don't move,
Yep.
and just say, whatever, I'm just going to charge you this way, and it's going to be like a 5-inch charge, and the Lord killed half the unit, now let's roll Chosen.
Oh, I rolled 3 6s. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's just a couple too many problems. Still have good teams potential.
Yep.
Still have some good matchups. I think it's quite good into Eldar, but there's just a couple too many things above them that I'm not really looking to play them into.
I agree. I think they're fine. They're Codex fine. Yeah.
Codex one.
I know Jack was really, really happy with them for a while, but I had a lot of my experience playing Eldar into them, and they're good into
That's
Eldars.
what they're good too.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's too many things that they don't want. There's too much that they don't want.
Yeah.
All right. Genestealer call. This one's interesting. I don't actually know where we're gonna end up putting these.
I have no. So this is one of, I could see
I could
3. No, 2.
No, there's 2.
They're legible or 5/9.
Oh, I was gonna. I don't think
Codex. They're not legible. I think they're 5/9.
yeah. Genestealer was insane. It took a very noticeable nerf, but it didn't strip them of any of their damage.
They do too much damage still, but now they don't actually have that many units, and they don't get them all back.
And it's not unlimited. But now that they get the bombs back with the bomb squad, we'll sort the wear in this in a second. There is the weird thing though, where now the Genestealer player has to play semi-respectfully because they don't want to throw away a resource turn 1 for a silly trade and then roll a 2 and actually lose it.
Yeah.
And because they no longer have so many units that they can just throw it away and not care.
Honestly, you know what really the biggest change was for me is the fact that the bomb squads, you can't double 3-inch deep strike.
That's a big one.
So, because what always would happen, first one would show up. Do you want to fire Overwatch? Yes. Oh, my squad's dead. Back in reserve. Second one, exact same spot.
Yeah, that was always a problem. So I still like where Genestealer Cult's at. I think they're thoroughly 5/9. They actually really like guard allies, which is a funny thing where I actually might be willing to shuffle them anywhere within 5/9 and be not
I think top of 5/9.
It's probably fair.
They're still a good army.
They still score secondaries very well.
Yeah.
They do very good damage.
Mm-hmm.
They no longer bring so many units that they just power through every defensive profile.
Yeah.
So if you have something that is relatively durable into them, they no longer say, whatever, it costs 3 units, now all 3 are back next turn.
Yep.
Because, like, you know, that's how it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a little harder to play. There's a little more counters to them. People are more used to it. But we still see them put up good results.
It's still a good faction.
Yeah, I think Genestealer Cult are still a good faction. And I think people developing guard armies has also helped Genestealer Cult a little bit. Because I think Genestealer Cult really like having a small amount of
The
guard
Catachin Chimeras is just
Catachin Chimeras is really cheap transport.
thing that starts on the table. Isn't that package like 120 points or something crazy?
It's relatively cheap. I think Catachins are 50 or 55, and a Chimera is like 70.
Yeah.
I want to say it's 125 for
sorry.
a transport and 10 dudes with OC2 and a scout move.
Yeah.
It's a firmly good package to ally in, and Genestealer Cult just is like, oh, I'm really glad I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm a real big on that ally.
Yes.
And you can even put some artillery in if you actually want to. Like, if you just want some like indirect, you can do that. I don't think it's necessary, but it's kind of a cool idea. So I like them right there. I think that they're still below everything in Legible Faction Icon, and I'm very happy with them below that.
I agree.
But I do think that they're better than...
They're better than the Codex one.
They're better than everything in Codex One. It's a weird thing where I actually like kind of want to put Guard ahead of Blood Angels right now. But like this whole mess right now is very close in my mind.
Yeah.
This whole
I
trio.
think Blood Angels are better than Guard.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Quinton, we're playing that game tomorrow.
No.
No.
Not head to head. Oh god.
I know, not always head to head. It's not always what matters.
Yeah.
Genestealer Cult. I think they're really solid. I don't think they need any nerfs, and I think if the top end stuff got a little bit
think
adjusted,
they're fine.
I think that they're very happy.
I want to see the faction totally redone.
I'm excited for the Codex because
Yeah.
I want
to see the melee
I really want to see the vehicles and melee part.
do something.
I like Twisted Helix and I like the 9 Ridge Runner build of 8th
We
edition.
just got some absolutely gorgeous Achilles Ridge, or the Goliath Rock Grinders from I think M3 Studios.
Yep.
And it's
And
kind
I'd
of a
love to
shame
use
that
them.
they're not everything on the table right
They
now.
will be eventually, but not
Yes.
yet.
Imperial Knights.
Oh, this one's gonna hurt.
They got like triple taps.
They got triple tapped and they got real hurt.
Yeah.
Losing Overwatch, towering changes, which I don't actually think were terrible for them, but the towering changes were felt. Points hike through the roof, then losing the bond abilities really hurt the big knights, the knights of Imperial Knights. And so they're an army that is very much suffering right now. And that it hurts because I love knights. I think again, this is one of those armies where you can see like a faction expert doing surprisingly well with it. Like
Brian Jones went 4-1 at Crucible, I think.
he went 5-2.
5-2.
Yep. But then he went, I want to say either 7-1 or 6-1-1. I think he went 6-1-1 at GW Tampa.
Yeah.
Like in the month of October, like Brian Jones put up 2 very respectable results. You do see knights sneaking in an X and 1 on occasion. I haven't seen them win an event in September that I've personally seen, but if someone sees one, please let me know. When you play knights as a stat check army right now, they're just going to lose more often than they're going to win.
Yes.
And so you have to play knights very cagey, which I think is awesome. And I love this is one of the hard things. I love the current play style of Imperial Knights. They're just not good at it.
Yeah.
Or they're not as good as I want them to be at it. Where I love that knights aren't encouraged to be a stat check army right now, because if they do, they're just not going to win very often.
Yeah.
And so you have to play them carefully. And, getting to play against, like when I got to play against Brian and Crucible, I was like, oh yeah, this is, I like playing against this kind of knights. It's fun. It's not just a stat check. But here's the thing with Imperial Knights. Their detachment rules, I think, are actually perfectly fine. Yeah. The big knight data sheets were what was good, and they got carved in they lost so much of their intended identity.
Yes.
Because they were too good at the beginning of 10th. And
They were way too good.
They were too good at the beginning of 10th.
Yeah.
And then when they lost, like it was such an integral part of how they were designed, and they were just like, hey, your big knights no longer benefit when they give a bond ability. And you're like, wait, that was like what they did.
Yeah.
Like that's what their data sheet does. And so now, because the armature data sheets in IK are terrible, Like the Helverin and the Warglaive, the Chaos Knight equivalents of those are the two worst of the 5 data sheets that Chaos Knights have.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with and then these are worse versions of them, because I would actually rather have the Helverin rule is that if you are like on an objective, you get anti-fly 2+, which sometimes is just so irrelevant.
If you're not playing against any fly, it doesn't do anything.
It literally doesn't do anything. And then the Warglaive rule is sustained 1 on the charge, which
That's not great.
yeah, which is like it's
like 4 attacks.
It's 4 attacks on the
Yeah.
Like, it's like, who cares? It's like the Chaos Knight versions are still better than these. Like, of the 7 Armageddon data sheets that exist between IK and CK, I genuinely think IK have the worst 2. Mm-hmm. And so you don't want to take them to be buffing. And so the bondsman abilities don't do anything.
Yeah.
And and it's really hard because it's just a worse Chaos Knight army. And again, I think the actual detachment that Imperial Knights have is perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. I think the detachment rule is good. It's just there's no good data sheets to benefit, and you end up so elite if you take big knights.
You get 3.
Yeah,
then you end up with the problem where like, oh, that last cannon shot rolled 6 in the damage. It's most of like a significant portion of my health bar's gone.
I haven't mentally decided. I want to give Imperial Knights that small amount of bias that puts them up to Codex One. There's no way that they're in 5/9.
No.
Despite being tall, they're
probably a Death Guard hand-me-down.
They probably are. I think they're better than Drukhari.
Yes, they are. I think Drukhari's
I agree. I think they're there. Mm-hmm. I love Knights. I think that you can still play them. It's very hard to play them at a level that like gets them where they want to be, but you can. But even once you do that, you have a couple too many bad matchups. Like, even if I'm playing them as well as I can, it is very hard to beat a CSM. It is very hard to beat an Aeldari. It's very hard to beat Thousand Suns. And I don't know how I would deploy against World Eaters to play the game.
As Knights?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think I deploy on the line, hope I go first, and then I back up.
Yeah.
I'm only deploying on the line so that they don't deploy on the line. Yeah. I deploy on the line, hope I go first, then back up, and I'm like, I don't know what I would even do.
The problem is that Angron runs and it cuts 2 big knights in half.
Well, he can't, because you have so few models that you can actually space them out.
Sure.
It isn't the space marine problem.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. Mm-hmm. And so I think they're Death Guard hand-me-downs right now. I really am hoping that I love the towering change for the game, and I don't want that to change at all. Mm-hmm. I'm really hoping that at some point in the balanced data slate, they will take Imperial Knights and just give them back the bond abilities.
Yep.
I think they should also go down in points slightly, but the bond abilities were the only part of the faction identity that made sense. I also want them to make armatures better, but I acknowledge that's probably not going to happen until the Codex. And I'm praying that we get another armature variant in the Codex.
Do we have a Knight Codex?
Knight Codex is not announced, so I'm assuming that it's not anytime soon.
Yeah. It's a bad account. You just kind of want all the codexes now. I'm impatient.
I do want them all now. I'm really impatient too.
I think Games Workshop should just like hand them all out tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be nice. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I think Imperial Knights are just suffering.
Yep.
All right. Necrons? New kids on the block, huh?
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, Necrons are
really
real strong.
Funny story, when the day the book first came out, and people were kind of reading it and they saw all the changes that like Warriors took, I made a Reddit post and I was like, hey guys, I don't think Necrons are that bad. I think they're actually pretty good. And I got like 50 downvotes.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I deserve.
Yeah. No.
But no, so what do you, I think rates for their points cost are ludicrous because they're 4 wounds each with the Field of Pain and a 4-pin bone that reanimate, and they like fly and move through walls.
I didn't realize that rates were only 100. Like it's 120 for 3.
It's crazy.
Which I think means, right? Is it 120 for 3? I think
so. Something like
it's like 240 for 6.
Yeah,
and then like the cryptic is like 60.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's like 300 points for maybe 310 or something.
It's the Tesla Immortal Squad that shoots and kills the Avatar every time it activates.
Yeah, that stuff's raw.
Then you add like 9 Catan.
Yeah, I got to play against Necrons. I've played against Necrons 3 times the last week.
Yeah,
which is good because I got to like actually start getting reps against it. Man, Wraiths are so insanely annoying to deal with.
Yeah.
And then, oh, I'm sorry, it's 110 for
Yeah.
3. They're less than 40 a model. Dear God.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
not
that's
okay.
so insulting.
They're not okay.
That's like the same cost as like six Tyranid warriors with a prime is like almost the same cost.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
I need
No,
a minute.
they're like really, really way too good. The Canoptic Court is
280.
the Canoptic Court like Wraith build is like not like okay.
It's not okay.
Like, not okay.
It's such a stat check. Hyperphase Crypt, I think, is something I want to see it explored more, but the potential is there for it to be better than Canoptic Court.
Yeah.
But Canoptic Court is so on face value, this is good at playing Warhammer.
Yeah.
It's so obviously good.
Yeah, it's the best stat check in the game. It's the best stat check in 10th edition scene, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
The Canoptic Court is I hate it, honestly. I hate it so much. It's so boring to play against.
Yeah.
I've played against it 5 times now, and I'm just so bored of watching Catan walk 6 inches while Wraiths run at me. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tagging Wraiths has been the only joy I find.
Oh yeah, you
They're
have to
not
like,
a
throw like
melee.
a rhino or something in the
No, you throw 3 Eradicators at them and they stop working. It's hilarious. 3, a full 6-man squad in the Power Matrix on average kills 1 Eradicator. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Just pop a Merc Temp to go shoulder bump them and you're like, whatever, dude. Have fun chilling here. Yeah, Canoptic Court, it doesn't look particularly challenging to play. But even then, an army that is not hard to play, played well, still gets better though.
Yes.
So like it's not discounted.
The floor is quite,
low.
high. Yeah.
Yeah, floor is high. That's a better way to put that.
think-
This is easily illegible.
Yeah, I think it's between Black Templars and Death Guard.
Yeah, I think it is better than Death Guard.
I think it's
I could see it here. I think it's there. Ooh, no.
No, there we go.
There we go.
But I could tell this where it's very, very good.
And frankly, let's also remember we are in early developments.
Yes.
If this meta, which we expect to change by the end of January, per GW,
Yep.
if this meta were to continue for a month or 2, I would not be surprised if Necrons jumped a level or 2. So I think Necrons probably are favored into Eldar.
They definitely.
Hate playing CSM.
Yeah.
Because like Forge Fiends, Nurgle Forge Fiends, I think are disastrously good into Wraiths, and chosen with lethal are really good into Catan. Like you go in, throw, shoot some dead wound stuff, chip a wound or 2 off, throw a grenade, chip a couple wounds off, charge, lethal hits, full rolls, hit and wound. Necrons don't really have effect, and this is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, woof, 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 woof. This is really... They're really good. I could see them being better than the Templars, but I think peak Templar Gladius probably still...
I agree. I think the one saving grace of Necrons is that they're either fairly slow or don't hit that hard.
Yes.
You don't ever get the unit that combines everything like you get in CSM or Black Templars.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's fair. So yeah, I think we do keep them just below Templars.
Yeah. But you could make a case.
And again, if we give this book another month to marinate,
Someone
and
figures
then
it out.
and then it were to pass Black Templars, I would not be surprised. 'Cause, yeah, I feel like Hyperphase is really good. I've played against it. I was very impressed with the rule set. The list I played against was good, but I also wouldn't be surprised if someone came back, because I don't know Necrons that well. Obviously, I play against them. I've already played against the new book 6 times.
Yeah.
I've read it a couple times. I know Necrons pretty well, but I wouldn't be surprised if a dedicated Necron player cracked it and brought out a list that we hadn't considered before.
Yep.
But right
There's some weird, obscure data sheet that let's take this and this combo and the strat works on it for no reason. And
yeah, it is one of those things. How about Orks?
I think Orks are pretty good.
Orks are pretty good. Yeah.
You just have a lot of stuff. It's pretty hard. And you have a lot of good options.
A lot of stuff.
Knobs in trucks are
quite solid.
dumb.
War bosses are quite good.
Yep. Squig Hawk Boys are good. Flash Kits are good.
Flash Kits are good.
Gretchen are good.
The Dino Riders are good. Like the Dino Ride bosses. I don't know where to put them. I feel like Orks are
bottom legible factions. I
maybe
think between
I think we're gonna have to rebalance legible faction icon at some point because
agree.
it's so much bigger than 5/9. But
I think what we can probably do, I think if we take Dark Angels and Chaos Knights and move them down to 5/9, and then we put Orks behind Sisters.
okay.
I think that's what we should probably do.
You think Orks are better? Are Orks better than Chaos Knights? Maybe.
I think they are.
Maybe. Not. They might be. Might not be. It's hard to say.
They're just really good. I think. The Dino Riders are crazy.
They are. The Dino Riders. Like, you mean like the bosses or the squigs?
The squigs.
The squig
like
riders.
the Mozrog and the Beast
Oh,
Boss.
yeah. The Squigosaur
Yeah,
guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, they are very solid. They also they weirdly don't hit hard all the time.
They're
It's a bunch of AP 1, damage 3, some stuff death wounds.
They're like one of the best armies in the game on the War turn, and then an okay army off the War turn.
Yeah. That's one of those things, is that because it's so polarizing, where if you get the timing right, they feel OP.
Yeah.
And if the timing doesn't work because you didn't call the log on the right turn because you went second.
Yeah.
And then you got a little bit shot too much, and suddenly the wheels on the truck fall off. I feel like, honest, I feel like they might be like top of 5.9. I think we can leave them there for now because we're gonna see.
They're in that part though.
Absolutely.
Between top or bottom legible faction, top of 5.9, they're
Agreed.
somewhere in there. They probably don't make changes.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Really don't. Like, I think that they're also getting slept on a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
But they apply pressure and play the mission very well while applying pressure.
They're also very good in teams.
They're also very good in teams, which is a nice little bonus point. I think they've got a couple of matchups where you just look at it and you say, oh, no, we fall apart.
Yeah.
But not all of those armies are above them. Mm-hmm. And I could see them punching up into some things. Like, I could see, like, Orks being weirdly good into Necrons.
I think they are.
Like, I could really believe that. Mm-hmm. Like, if you told me that, like, oh, well, the Immortals had to step out to crack the Rhino.
Yeah.
Or the truck.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, weird, we didn't actually have a ton of guns.
Because Wraiths aren't actually good in trucks.
No, they're not. They win on 5s.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know, if you told me, like, yeah, they had Necron Wraiths and I charged it with, like, 20 boys and 2 war bosses and they died, I'd be like, okay, those numbers might make sense. I don't even know how hard that hits.
I mean, also, all the anti-monster stuff is good into the Catan.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I could easily. Yeah, I think we can leave Orks there for now. Yeah. We'll see how we want to rebalance things.
Yeah. Okay.
Space Marines?
Basic Space Marines, which I think we just kind of have to assume is Ultramarines.
Yeah, of the vanilla chapters, I think Ultramarines are the best. Mm-hmm. This is weird because, like, you're really just looking at, like, it's like the same ceiling as Dark Angels, except you just take, like, slightly different named characters.
Yeah.
Because, Dark Angels can still take all the vanilla Space Marine stuff, just they can't take the named characters. Mm-hmm. And Ultramarines have the best named characters, so yeah, it probably is just we're kind of ranking Ultramarines here. I think peak Space Marines are really good.
Yeah.
And I think it is Ultramarine Vanguard is if I am only using that book and no supplements. Mm-hmm. I think Ultramarines have the best characters because that's the only thing you're adding is choose your characters. And then I think you do Vanguard. And
I think Ultramarines Vanguard is definitely legible faction.
Yes, yeah. It's definitely above 5.9. I'm not going to lie to anyone here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's pointy headgear.
No, it's definitely not. I think it is better than Necrons, worse than Necrons, better than Death Guard.
I think I can fully endorse that.
Yeah.
I think I can fully endorse that. New Necrons are very scary. I've been able to beat them with Vanguard. At several points, it has felt extremely unsafe that I'm beating them, where I'm like, well, I did win this game by 8 points, but you know what? Maybe if one thing went wrong down the line, or
those rates were like, whoops, I made 75% of my 4-ups, which like it just kind of
no, that actually did happen. That sucked. I was playing against Richard,
Oh yeah.
But I also hit a 9-inch charge with the CP reroll.
Yeah.
That I probably lose by 5 if I don't make.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where it's like, well, let's take a couple plays. One of them worked, and I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
But if it didn't, problem. But the peak Space Marine, I think without accessing outside attachments, I think the Vanguard is the best attachment Space Marines have access to. Mm-hmm. The Gladius is very, very good, but because the Gladius is combined arms shooting and melee, you need actual melee units to make it work. And you need Dark Angels or Templars to have a melee, or Blood Angels, have a melee unit worth anything in Space Marines.
Yeah, I agree.
So then you're like, all right, now it's Iron Storm or Vanguard. I actually think Vanguard is better than Iron Storm. And it's really good. The Ultramarine Vanguard itself is very hard to play. Mm-hmm. I played a GT this week and won it with the Ultramarine Vanguard. I was actually, I'm sure you can tell, I was a little bit sick on Sunday, and I noticed I was not necessarily at 100%. I was still playing fairly well, but I made a couple small mistakes, and every time I did, I watched the House of Cards start to crumble, and I was just panicking, running around with the duct tape and bubblegum trying to hold together enough points to barely win a game that I thought I was going to win.
The Ultramarine Vanguard has kind of a similar feeling to Eldar, where you're like, whoops, I wasn't paying attention that turn, and I lost an extra unit and a half. Now the game's like off the wheels.
Yeah. I had a moment where I put 6 Eradicators within Nurgle range of a Forge Fiend. I fired at it, failed to inflict a point of damage, and I almost lost the gun spot.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, like I didn't need to kill it. I needed to wound it. I needed to do something to it. And because it was like a wounded Forge Fiend that I shot and overcharged, and then I just completely failed to do anything, and suddenly I was like, oh my god, this is a problem.
Yeah.
And so I lost one more resource than I wanted, and then I was like, oh no. So it was a little spooky. But the potential for Space Marines, I think, is very high. And I think the potential for Space Marines, when played well, is so high because they have so many data sheets and options.
Yes.
That Space Marines, the book is thick. But like you see dedicated Marine players, even when Marines are bad, who can punch up. Like the example I love to give is Sasha Edelkraut, who has done very well with Index Space Marines and Codex Space Marines. Just playing on, he is a good player at positioning units, and Space Marines have almost every tool they could.
It's the only player I've ever seen to consciously tell me every time he moves his infiltrators where the Helix Gauntlet is.
Good for him.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, he also like managed to screen Nick Nanavati his reserves out when he played him at Tampa, and then beat him.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, like Space Marines have so many tools that a player can do well with them. So their ceiling is always higher than their median.
Yes.
Because the army has tools, a good player can almost always make them work, even when they're not actually great. And I think right now that they are not great, but they're good. And then there are so many tools that if you really try and practice and get it down, you can get really good results.
They have a couple of really awesome data sheets. The Inceptors.
Inceptors
are just really, really
mint. Good. Inceptors are mint. Scouts are too cheap.
Yeah.
And then Marnius Calgar carries the world on his shoulders. But yeah, I love Space Marines. I think they're in a super good place right now. I think that a couple of things need a buff and a couple of things need a nerf. But peak Space Marines can do so well.
Yes.
All right. Six minutes left. Swolves.
Wolves have a problem in that their
detachment is nothing.
It's so useless.
Their detachment is nothing, so let's just get that out of the way.
All of their units are just worse units of other worse versions of other chapters' unique units.
Yep.
Like all their characters are worse than other characters. All of their unique guys are just worse. It's just like not.
Yeah, because like Dark Angels, their detachment is probably not as good as the Space Marine ones, but you can look at their unique units and say, this gives some value that a generic Space Marine unit doesn't.
Yes.
Deathwing Knights provide something that Terminators don't.
Yep.
Wolfguard Terminators, do they even have their own data sheet still?
They do, but
they don't provide anything.
You can like
notable.
Mix and match war gear.
I'm sure you get combi weapons.
Yeah. You get like you can mix like thunder hammers and like bolters and stuff in like a weird way, but like
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't care.
It's not like they're not great. It's
cool.
They're Codex one.
Yeah. I fully agree on Codex one. You can try to build Thundercav into a Stormlance, which I think is the only credible way to play Space Wolves, not because I think it's great. Because I think the best Space Wolf list is pretend you're not Space Wolves and play Gladius.
Yep.
Which is sad.
Yep.
But if you're trying to credibly play Space Wolves, I think Thundercav and a Stormlance is decent in teams.
It is.
But very prone to bad matchups, which will just keep it so far down in singles world because there's too many things that
the other problem is like if you're playing Thundercav and like you go second and your opponent has scouts and they're like, I'm gonna walk this one scout unit forward because I talk about a soccer puck unit. Like every single Thunder Cavalry is in a Dreadnought base. The unit is 6 Dreadnoughts moving together. Like you can't go through terrain. You move pretty fast, which is awesome, but like they're so easy to move block. And if you charge, yes, that's correct. Yeah, they don't go turn. Yeah,
that's where I'm.
Yeah,
I think they're below Admech.
Yeah, they're below Admech above demons.
I'm fine with that.
Tau.
Tau is good.
They're good.
I think those kings are 5/9.
I completely agree. I think they're the top of 5/9.
I would agree with that. Maybe here, one of these two. There's definitely the upper end of 5/9.
Yeah. They have problems, but boy, do they shoot hard. They do also kill themselves sometimes.
Yep. They are one-dimensional. They're good at their one dimension.
Yep.
They have cheap units and transports that can clear objectives very well in breachers. I think that's very good. They have some bad matchups. They really don't like Eldar. Jan, News 11.
Yeah.
But then sometimes they can make it work. I feel like too many armies have a way to deal with a crisis suit unit.
I completely agree.
And because crisis units are so terrifying when they work, but every army that I like personally play has at least one thing it can do against crisis teams, which is either it's like small units scattered around the battlefield that are infiltrating and lone ops who can just charge and tag them at any point. Because once you make it past the Overwatch and touch them, they don't do anything. Yes, they're vehicles, but a crisis team unit that isn't moving before it shoots is so easy to get around.
Yeah.
And I love Fire Warriors. That's funny. But like breachers, terrifying when they pop off.
Yep.
Multiple breachers sometimes will whiff.
Yep.
They're good at playing the mission.
If your opponent's not standing on the objective, breachers are way worse.
That's I've noticed that. I've just been like bullying them around objective, being like, well, you don't hold this objective either.
Yep.
Here's a lone op barely on it and a bunch of stuff around it. Come on over.
Yeah.
And you can sometimes bleed the resources. They take a little too long to power up, and so sometimes get rushed down.
Yeah.
They've got like they're very competitive. They can win events. I think they have one too many problems to be illegible.
I agree.
Just one too many. And for me, it's that they don't have the option to do a list that powers up turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, they don't.
Like they need to,
I think once Tau get their codex and they have a Macaw option,
because obviously that's coming.
yeah.
Surely.
I mean, one of the codex has been confirmed to be pretty soon.
Yeah. I think they're sometime in the first half of the year.
I think.
I'm not really sure.
I think they're in the fall, but who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Let's go T-Suns.
T-Suns. Okay, so I've actually played a couple games with T-Suns. Yeah, so I have some experience here. Boy howdy, do T-Suns have some incredible abilities and hit way too hard.
I think T-Suns are a failure in game design.
Absolutely.
They made the data sheets
too good,
so mind-numbingly OP
Yeah.
that they had to reduce the number of them you could take
to below critical. You start
barely
below
functional.
Yeah.
Barely functional.
Every time I was in my shooting phase, I was like, I feel like a god. Because I have this random character could be like, I have +1 to hit and wound, and you don't have an armor save, and here's 17 devastating wounds, and here's a Doom Bolt on top. And then I'd get like time to get shot back, and I was like, oh my god, my army is 15 tactical marines.
5 tactical marines and a librarian can like, with an enhancement, can like just kill a 10-man Terminator squad.
Yeah.
And it's insane, but then your army's made of 20 tactical marines. It's like
literally 20 tactical marines.
and mags.
In mags.
It's very hard to place T-Suns right now because I think that they're in a huge problem where there are some armies that have nothing they can do against T-Suns.
If you're an army that walks slowly at them and relies on a good armor save, you will just lose.
Yeah, but like if T-Suns get hit once the wrong way, they don't have enough Cabal points, suddenly it's over.
One also thing about them I think is really important is that the amount of things T-Suns can do is incredible, but they really legitimately just can't do all of them at once.
Yes.
You get like 1 or 2 in the
But then it creates brain drain on the opponent because they're trying. If you try to solve everything T-Suns can do while cowering, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
I think T-Suns are still pretty good.
I agree. I think they're top of 5/9.
I think they're better than Tau. Even though I don't like...
So I like, having actually played with the army a couple of times, like their rules on paper are incredible, but like legitimately you just don't have things. Like you just do not have models.
Yeah. Every time I see Thousand Suns do something, I think this is unfair. Yeah. This is impossible. Like, how could they do that? Yeah. But then once you get past the hump, once you get to, if you make it to turn 3 while trading units, and suddenly like, okay, well, now I can't double move and turn off your saves. And I really wanted Doom, like I did my Doom Bolts. All right, you do get saves this turn. I didn't actually roll that many death wounds because you vected 4 rolls to hit and wound immediately. And now I just didn't roll that many 6s. Suddenly it might actually be okay. You get past the hump and you table. Yeah. But if you don't, you just get clobbered.
Oh, Brian typed in the chat. What are your thoughts on T-Suns, Brian?
I'm curious to hear it. I think
I'm putting him top of 5/9.
yeah, top
Yeah,
of the
top
top.
five. They're better than Tau, I think, but they're not in the legend.
Yeah, but yeah, but it's one of those weird things though, where if they got slightly cheaper, I think they'd be broken.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, because like I really think that like release T-Suns were,
Yeah, too good.
I mean, they were insane.
I think T-Suns and Eldar have the same problem. They need more units, and all of our units need to be worse.
Yep. Let's get on to my favorite, shall we?
Bugs.
Bugs.
I just need you all to know. There's officially a drawer that I put away earlier when we were unpacking the studio.
Oh man.
It's called Painted Pretty Bugs. And I think it's cute.
Yeah. They are. I think
They're really pretty.
I think they're pretty. I absolutely love my Tyranids.
Mm-hmm.
They have some problems.
Yeah.
They play the game of 40k very well. I think that they can beat a lot of armies that are going to be above them, but then they struggle to punch up too high. And then they have real problems with a couple of things about them. But if you a Tyranid player can convince your opponent to play an honest game of 5 turns of 40k, Tyranids are very, very good.
Gargoyles are dumb.
Tyranids have the best suite of lone ups in the game, not the best single one, but the best lone up options because I can take more than you because mine are characters.
Yep.
Gargoyles are one of the best battle line units for mission play in the game, possibly the. They're not that expensive. Their damage is mediocre until it's not, but unfortunately it's middle until it's not.
Yeah.
And so sometimes Tyranid damage feels really good. Like when you're playing against custodes and you're like, oh wow, my entire army that wounds rhinos on 5s wounds your whole army on 3s and ignores covered AP 2 damage 3.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, you're wounding rhinos on 5s with your whole army.
Then you whiff a little bad.
And you don't have rerolls.
Yeah.
That many rerolls in Tyranids. You hope someone fails a battle shock and you get +1 wound because you still have a Neurolictor alive. But then like sometimes it's so good and sometimes it's so not. I think Tyranids really struggle with Necrons. I think they really struggle with Black Templars.
Yep.
I think they really struggle with CSM. And I think that once Eldar moved to Triple Night Spinner, that matchup became damn near impossible.
Yeah, I agree.
I know like I snuck one past you at Crucible. I think if you were on Triple Night Spinner,
The Vipers didn't do anything in that game.
didn't do anything
They
in that game.
didn't. I think I shot and didn't kill him.
Yeah. And did I make the 4-up interval I needed to? Awesome.
Yeah.
That's more in my power than, oh, you can't move or advance and you're dead.
Yeah.
And don't get saves. Like
I always say it, like, Fire Prisms are awesome for 1 turn, Night Tuners are pretty good for 5 turns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think Tyranids are going to be 5/9.
Yeah.
I love them. I think that they have that ability to move, block, and bluster their way past several of the armies above them. However, there are too many armies above them that I just don't think I can do that to.
I think they're middle of 5/9.
Yeah.
Like around like
they're like
GSC.
right in this
That's
ballpark.
exactly where I should put them.
I think they're better than GSC.
Yeah, I agree.
It's worth.
I think right there. Like,
Here?
There. Right there. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
I think I'm fine with that.
Yep.
But like as soon as Tyranids hit 2-up armor of contempt.
Yep. In cover.
God help me if there's cover.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, maybe I can, sneak a Pyrovore in.
Yeah.
But like I've noticed with Tyranids that there's just a couple of matchups above me that which is funny. I think Tyranids can play against anything on 5/9.
Absolutely.
But unlike the rest of 5/9, there's armies that are ahead of them on 5/9 that I think Tyranids should be. I think Tyranids are better than top in the head-to-head.
Yes.
But
we also T-Sums too. Because
I haven't played that enough to comment, but
yeah.
possibly. However, how much can you punch up? And some of these armies can punch up just better than Tyranids can.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart, but I think Tyranids are still really good. They're fun to play. I don't think that they need buffs at all.
No,
I think that they need balance buffs, in that I think that you can take Gargoyles and Neurolictors, give them a small points increase, maybe moderate for Gargoyles.
Yeah.
And then you can take 6 units that you've never seen before and make them cheaper.
Yes.
I think it's like that's the place they're in. Like just trim a very small amount off the top and lift the bottom more than you cut the top, and we're good.
Yep.
But again, I don't think Tyranids are capable of killing a Catan. I don't think I am capable of killing a Catan.
If you put your whole army, maybe?
No, it's T11, dude.
Yeah,
I don't have strength 11 or 12.
In Endless Swarm, the little
That's
two
true.
is actually pretty good at them.
In Endless Swarm, you
because they don't armor save, right? They have a 4-up or something.
I think they have a 4-up. So you have to, if you hit them with a Pyro 4 and then that's fair. That probably could. The Endless Swarm, I think the Endless Swarm has a much spikier matchups chart than everything else in Tyranids.
Oh, absolutely. A lot. Did you go first?
Yeah. Whereas I think Tyranid, this like the normal like Nexus Tyranid list that I like has very smooth. I think I can beat anything else in 5-9. I think I can get a game into half of faction icon, and I don't think I can beat anything in pointy headgear. I think Endless Swarm can beat Eldar, still doesn't beat CSM, and then start spiking down into half of this, whereas Tyranids are very smoothly in the middle if you do Nexus.
I agree.
So it's all rough all the way around there, but there's still so much upside and so many battle shock tricks and so many play options that I like Tyranids a lot, and I really enjoy playing them.
They're fun.
They're very fun to play with.
Yeah.
I love battle shock.
When everything works, they're terrifying.
When everything works, Tyranids are terrifying, but I think the other side of this is that as the meta has been developing, I think Tyranids are slowly getting crapped out. Necrons.
Big one.
Are a big... I
don't know what Tyranids do against Necrons.
I don't...
Because maybe you can kill Akatan. You definitely can't kill 5.
I also, like, killing a 1 Wraith squad feels like it's gonna require...
They're all 4 wounds.
Yeah, like, oh man, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. I don't know what I'm like. The amount of effort it would take me to kill 1 Wraith squad, and I don't know if it would work. Is like
so that's just monumental. So like,
yeah, Tyranids hate recursion because they don't burst damage. They just don't burst damage very well, so they hate recursion.
Yeah,
but we got 2 armies left, so let's hit them.
Leagues of Votann.
The Leagues.
This is an army that is the exact opposite of T-Suns and Eldar, and that all of their units are garbage, but they have too many of them.
Yeah. I think that Votann are not as good as they were heralded.
I agree. I think they're in like the 5-9 area.
Yeah, I think that their win rate is fake.
Yes.
I think that their win rate is a lot of people going above average, not some people doing very, very well.
I think the thing is, if you are playing Votann and you deploy on the line and you go first and you scout a bunch of sidecharge your opponent, it is actually quite annoying.
Yeah, and then you win going second sometimes.
Yeah.
And therefore you win more than half your games.
Yep. Yeah. The Votann are just like a did you go first army.
Yeah. I've found that with Votann, there's a real drop-off point, and it's not just the attrition of your killing units, also the attrition of the initial judgment token targets run out. Because what always happens is the Votann player picks several units to judgment token. 1 or 2 of those units die very quickly, and they get a bunch of CP that they spend on nothing. And then 1 or 2 of those units are actually hiding and not like getting hit. And then there's a point where Votann starts having a couple less units and shooting at units that don't have a ton of judgment tokens.
Yeah.
And suddenly the damage stops happening, the tags start working, and they start dying.
Yeah.
Suddenly it just comes together at a weird
They're also like a threshold army where like 6 Sagittars is terrifying, but 3 is a lot less terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're also very random.
They're so spiky. Yeah, like I felt the turn where I
4 hits or 0, who knows?
I got shot by 5 Sagittars, all 5 Sagittars got at least 4 hits.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is OP as all get out. And then I killed a couple of them, and then on towards the end turns, the 3 Sagittars produced a collective 2 hits.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
4 is no rerolls. What will it be?
5 Sagittars, 20-something hits. 3 Sagittars, 2 hits. I'm like, I don't know what's real. It's very hard.
I think they're like they're in the like Tyranid Chaos Knight area.
Oh, I was gonna go higher than that.
Okay, where would you put
Do you think that they're, I feel like they're better than T-Suns, if I'm being honest. Like,
yeah.
They're still more, I know they're not reliable, but they play the game better than T-Suns, I feel. They have good matchups into some of the stuff ahead of them.
That's fair. I guess the problem with a lot of I haven't played Votann a ton since they were like really bad.
It's fair. I haven't played a ton of Votann, but I've played against them a couple times and I've never been like mega impressed, but I still feel like they're good. They're not great. Like I don't like, they're not ahead. If they were to make legible faction icon, they're not getting ahead of Sisters in my mind. I could see them anywhere from between Sisters and Orks to between T-Suns and Tau.
I think they're a 5-9. Just what my gut says. They're kind of short.
I trust you. We can't.
I think we can't put them above T-Suns, I guess.
Above T-Suns, I could.
Or no, I think T-Suns are better. I think.
You think T-Suns are better?
T-Suns are better.
I'm gonna trust you on that. I believe you.
We're gonna go there.
Yeah. I think I could see them anywhere from here. This is kind of my lower limit to here. I don't see them any higher than here.
No,
I don't see them lower than top.
No, that's right. And like, honestly, you could move any of these around 1 or 2 spaces. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind of subjective.
of course it's subjective. There's a little bit of wiggle. But we've got one
World
more.
Eaters, Warble Weavers.
I'm gonna be real honest with you, Quinton.
Yeah.
Not only have I not played against World Eaters in 10th edition, I haven't opened their rules yet.
I have read the
I
rules.
think the data card we have, I think it might still be sealed.
So I have some experience with World Eaters.
Excellent.
They're really good.
I know they are. I know I need to like ask a lot of questions the first time I play against World Eaters.
Big thing is they hit insanity hard and they move insanity fast. That being said, they have a bit of a T-Sons problem where they just don't have a lot of units on the table, but they are more durable than T-Sons by a significant amount. Also, Angron will actually just grab 2 full-sized Imperial Knights and just conk their heads together, and they will both die.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Angron just passes every damage check, like ever.
Yeah. I don't actually think he's good at killing Catan. 4 pinfall into half damage into 5 of healing pain. I don't think
that's fair, but nothing. Well, no, you can use the sweep. No, he's not going to kill Catan.
You're not going to sweep a Catan.
Nothing's good at killing Catan.
Yeah, you have to like spam damage one of them, which isn't really what World Eaters are trying to do. But any conventional defense is not. There's no conventional defense that passes the stat check.
No, I think that they're below conventional Marines above Death Guard in legible faction icon.
Yeah, I definitely think that they're illegible. I think they're definitely up there. World Eaters, I've been around. Here, you think?
Yeah, right there.
I'm kind of fine with that.
Yeah.
You know more about Death Guard than I do, so I'm willing to very much trust you on that.
Yeah.
I feel like because they're so one-dimensional, they always run into the problem of they could lose.
Absolutely. But they could also win.
Let's remember, we are ranking peak
Yes.
World Eaters here. We are talking about, hey, what if Anthony Vanilla is the World Eater player in question? Now, do Tau have a positive matchup into them? And now does Votann have a positive matchup into them? If we get world class of both, what is it? Yeah. World Eaters is a very easy army to mess up.
Yes.
Let's just be real clear about that. If you play World Eaters the way that the first 30 pages of lore tell you to play World Eaters, you are probably not going to win.
If you deploy on the line and running your opponent, you will lose most of your games.
Not,
if you are
half exactly.
Yeah.
But World Eaters played well sound very scary. I've heard a lot of people tell me what they do, even though I haven't opened the book myself. So I do actually know some decent amount of rules. I don't literally know nothing about them. I can tell you a lot about them. But because they're one-dimensional, if you're playing with a really good World Eater player, and then you're playing against a really good opponent, if you are one-dimensional and their army's not, sometimes it's a problem.
Yeah. They do have no shooting, and by that I mean the sum total of their army's shooting a lot of the times is like 6 bolt pistols, 2 rhinos, and a grenade strat.
There's definitely like 3 plasma pistols in every Berserker squad, and that's it.
Yeah.
They're not even going to overcharge them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think World Eaters are one of those things where I think what Anthony's experience at Worlds was that if World Eaters are played really well by high-level pilot, they can go beat Eldar, because if Eldar makes one mistake,
the game just ends.
World Eaters can crack.
Also, if you go first as World Eaters, that game actually gets really rough.
But then also,
if you go second, it gets a lot easier.
You play against an Eldar player that's really, really good and doesn't make the one mistake to let you in, and then you can lose to another high-level player. And so I think they are very much in this level, the legible faction icon, the A tier. They're a really good army, but because they're one-dimensional, they are in danger of getting closed out by something whose dynamic is against them. We saw this in Jack's final against Sisters, where the MSU was like, oh, I don't have enough units to hunt down an MSU army, and so now I'm starting to run out, and I'm still losing what I'm sending, and now I'm running out of units faction there. I think Anthony lost a game to... I believe it's David Gaylord's Eldar, where he beat several Eldar players in an awesome, month-long run that he did. But then he lost to David Gaylord because, Anthony was, frankly, I think he had just gotten a tooth pulled and might have had some dental medication.
He did, yeah.
But still, you make a mistake into an Eldar player who is good enough to not make those mistakes, and then the wheels can, you can fall behind. So I'm honestly fairly happy with the order we have here.
Too, I really like these.
Guard is the army I don't like their position right now.
Where do you think it should be?
I think they're below Tyranids ahead of GSC, if I'm being honest.
Okay, we can move on.
I feel like they're just a little bit higher up this level. I still like Tyranids better than Guard.
These two lists have gotten progressively more balanced as we do them.
Yeah, like you can see, like this is. I think the game needs some fixes, but like objectively, this is a pretty good, healthy meta. We do not have many in D. We do not have many in S.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about CSM and Eldar. They're not unbeatable.
Yeah, we still have both of these armies have things in this tier that they don't like playing.
No, that are actively bad matches.
And I think they each have one thing here that they don't like playing.
Yep.
Like, I really don't think CSM actually like playing Votann that much.
No, they don't.
And because, you know, you've got Terminators that can obliterate the Accursed Cultists. Yep. They don't like having to send things to pop Sagittars.
Yep.
And I don't think that...
Eldar don't love Tyranids. I don't think they love Tyranids.
Have you played Triple Knight Spinner?
Yeah, we played.
Those are my Endless Swarm stuff, right?
Yeah.
I felt like I had no point had any chance of winning that game.
I thought the game was pretty close.
Yeah, I definitely was keeping you to 5s while I was getting 5s, and I was running out of models while I wasn't killing anything.
I know, but whatever.
I'm just scarred by the fact that I played Shuckman last week and I got dribbled.
Fair.
I got bounced. It was embarrassing. But Eldar also have a couple matchups here. Like I think that the gap between 5-9 and pointy headgear is smaller than it's been in a year minimum.
Yeah.
And
even the gap between Death Guard hand-me-downs and 5-9 is
not as bad as it could be. Yeah. I don't like putting Imperial Knights in D tier, but they are. I think they're worse than everything above them.
Yeah, I agree.
But I feel like they still have a little play. I think they definitely are there. Drukhari are where they're at. These two are where they're at. I think Knights belong here, but I think they're a little better than that.
Yeah.
I really like where the game's at right now, and I feel like if we have a good balance patch. Yeah.
Honestly, you know what I also
this could be an almost perfect, this could be the best 40. I think we're one FAQ away from the best 40k I've seen in 15 years.
Yeah. I want to see a new mission pack.
I would like that. I would like a variety. I don't want them to do a massive departure.
No.
But by the way, take your screenshots now. We'll leave it on this for now. But take your screenshots. This is, I think, I don't want to change anything else.
No, I'm good here.
Yeah, Guard was the one thing that I thought was mildly too low, but even they're still lower half of 5-9. I'm fine with them there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. The game is in a really good spot.
It actually just is.
CSM and Eldar, Imperial Knights and Drukhari, they all need significant changes. Mm-hmm. Everything else from Codex Wen to legible faction icon is one line in an FAQ and a few, not a lot, a few points changes away. Mm-hmm. I think Admech needs Admech and Custodes need one line in an FAQ.
Yep.
And then I don't think Custodes needs any points changes. And then Admech needs a few points decreases. Yep. And one buff.
Yep.
One buff for Custodes. I think they need to do something against Dev Wounds. I think they need some way to get a little better damage. And then I think the top end, I think you're just a small increase on Wraiths and Catan.
Yeah.
And then Inceptors and Scouts away from these being perfectly fine.
Yeah.
These being perfectly fine. We're so close on a lot
of
this.
I think if the CSM goes up 200 points, it's probably fine.
I really want their damage to be lower.
Yeah, I think Profane Zeal probably should be changed, and then packs. I've seen people throw out a lot, if you have to roll the pact before you make the test, and if you fail, you don't get the buff.
I would that would feel better. That would feel better because then you'd probably take Abaddon for reroll pacts, but then you'd reroll hits, and then it's Abaddon. I could really be okay with that.
Yeah, or something, right? As long as it's
less all the time. Nice. Right on. So I think we're good here. Yep. And I think I'm happy with it.
Super chats.
Let's do it. So thank you so much, everyone, if you're hopping off now, for watching this video. If you enjoyed this one, take the screenshot, and also like this video. Please subscribe, share it with your friends. Let us know in the comment section if you enjoyed it, if you liked Quinton's hat. Let us know which factions you agreed with our placements on and which you disagreed. This is subjective. This is not perfect. However, I do feel pretty solid about this one. I feel pretty dang good about this one. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. And of course, check out the Worm on our website. Theworm.vhx.tv. You can get a free trial right meow. And, well, that's how you can see even more awesome Art of War content. So, let's hit these super chats.
So if you go there and then go to fan funding.
Let's do it. So thank you so much for all the support that we got during the stream. We really, really appreciate you. Alex Astro, $10 super chat. Morning, boys. John, what are you hoping to see in the data slate for our bugs? Perfect world if I got to write it. Because what I'm hoping for is that gargoyles and neurolictors don't go up at all. However, if I got to write it, I think I would take gargoyles to, honestly, I think I would make them OC1, no points change.
Fair.
Or 85 points instead of 75. Just make them a little less valuable. Because they still can be solved. Neurolictor probably goes up 10 points. Screamer Killer Carnifex, minus 20 or 25 points. Toxicrene and Tyrannifex, and Harpy and Crone, minus 40 points. I still wouldn't take them, to be clear.
Yeah.
And then, this is the hope that I know will not come true. You go in there and you FAQ every single instance of strength 8 or 9 to 9 or 10. Every single one. I'm sorry, but a Norn Emissary should not wound rhinos on 4s. I'm so mad. That's what I want. I think that the strength characteristic of a couple weapons are a little bit too low, but it's altogether fine. I think that there's like 2 things that are slightly too cheap in Tyranids, like slightly.
Yeah.
But because the book has so many flaws, it's not a meta problem, just like an internal balance problem. And I think we shouldn't always be taking Neurolictors or gargoyles. Just make them a little bit more, still good options. I'm still taking Neurolictors at a little bit more. I'd still take gargoyles a little bit more, then raise up a lot of those monsters that are terrible. I'd love to see +1 AP on a lot of things, but I don't think that they're going to go that into the details. I also don't think they're going to buff the strength or anything. So realistically hoping, like 6 monsters go down at 20%.
Yep.
And probably the 2 units that are just in every list should go up a 10%. Or less. All right.
Red Rum. Welcome back, friends. Who of you is playing at LVO? None of us.
None of us.
Jack is going to commentate, and I believe the rest of us are skipping it.
Yep. For me personally, I won't speak for the rest of the room. We all just moved. We just moved into a new studio. This is my first live stream in the new studio. And we all moved to a new city. And frankly, moving is stressful and expensive. I have been like tired and slightly and like sick every other week for the last 2 months, I feel. So I just keep going from, all right, let's do a tournament. Let's go to Worlds. All right, Thanksgiving. Okay, let's move my life to, 4 hours away.
Yeah.
Okay, Christmas. Okay, New Year's. Okay, tournament. Okay, I need like 3 weeks. I need 3 weekends in a row in my own bed.
I just got back from a week and a half in Europe, and then in like a month, I'm going to spend another week in Europe. And between that, I didn't really feel like flying to Vegas.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But hopefully everyone who goes has a wonderful time. Steven has been a member for 20 months. Thank you. I was shocked when I saw Quinton at Tampa and noticed he wasn't 5'4" like I expected. I was going to complain about Knights with this chap, but it seems like a better use to mark on this. Indeed, I was also shocked when I saw Quinton in Orlando 12 years ago, and he was not 5'4".
I was shorter then.
I think we were like roughly the same height.
Yeah.
But I was like, he's younger than me, but whatever. You don't like notice these things really.
Yeah.
And then I saw Quinn later and was like,
I turned my grow.
he's taller than me.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you, John McIntyre, for being a hero.
Yes.
And Happy New Year's to you as well. Quentin is looking far too thin to start 2024.
Definitely got some of that cruise weight, though.
I think Quentin looks good just the way he is. Doug, thank you so much for your support. We did, in fact, adjust the screen so we can see the faction icon list. But thank you so much for your support.
Tomcat, wishing for WoW becoming a starter player turn. It really should be.
I think that would be perfectly acceptable. Frankly, I think you can call WoG once per game in either player's command phase and it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
And they need to make language for things to last for a length of a battle round while being half in one, half in the other. They need a language for that. Yeah. Because if something lasts for the battle round, it like doesn't last. Because like I want Battle Shock to do that.
Yeah.
But like I haven't figured out the way to word it, but there's a way to word it. Mike Percival, if Dark Pact was an auto hazardist, is CSM fixed?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because their guys die anyways, right? A lot of the time.
I don't think so, but like maybe.
It would help on like games and stuff.
CSM hitting hard and dying afterwards isn't the problem. The problem is that they hit too hard.
Yeah.
Like,
the packs just need to do less.
Yeah. Brian with Super Chat. Admech's first round loss is 2.1, 48% win rate, and a 7% T-whip.
Those are fancy stats.
Those are fancy stats. I think my problem is that I think Admech have a very hard time punching above their win rate.
I agree.
Whereas objectively, I think Admech have a better win rate than Tyranids or Space Marines, and I would have more confidence in Space Marines than Tyranids than Admech's ability to win an event in that order.
I agree.
By a margin in between each one.
I completely agree.
Magnus the Blue's got a super chat.
Can you play Death Guard without crawlers? Absolutely. I did that for a while. I think they have a good place in the current build that I'm running, but if you don't want to run them, there are lots of good options. They are fairly expensive, and you do require them to make your army work in the way I play them, because they provide like damage over time. They provide some offense when your army is moving up. But if you wanted to add Terminators or whatever, you could totally just do that.
That's fair. Welcome to the War and Bronze, Mr. Battle. We appreciate your support. Tom Weston giving us a super chat from Cyprus. Happy New Year's to the wonderful people of Cyprus. Happy New Year's, Tom. Stephen Horowitz with another super chat. Knights are the best army. Y'all in the chat are a bunch of haters.
The chat was hating on Knights.
I think that the people in chat, they're not haters. They're peasants, people of the lands. They don't recognize the glory of their tall, long-legged overlords the way they should. And that's okay. We will take care of them and have them work our fields on our feudal world anyway. Go Knights. Knights are great. Kind of lost that one at the end. Yeah, that's okay.
Omnissiah Sphinx. I'm up in the air about my Imperial Guard army. Fully painted 5th edition mech guard. How should I go about updating it for 10th edition, overthinking into the wall? I mean, I think that like the core of guard is still artillery plus tanks plus dudes and chimeras, and as long as you have those, you're probably doing fine. But you can always speak more to that than I can.
Yeah, if you've got a couple of indirect pieces and a lot of mechanized vehicles in guard, I think that's fairly good right now.
Yeah,
I would say that you should probably get some Khazarkin unless you've got some old ones. But I actually, without knowing exactly what was in a 5th edition mech guard army, I remember it was a bunch of plasma command squads. In chimeras, but like that's honestly not even that far away from what you want, which is like Catachan in chimeras.
I feel like if
in
you
a
just run
squad or two,
like the Cadian infantry is Catachan, and you don't have any other infantry, you're probably fine there.
Oh yeah, you can run any infantry as any infantry you want, no problem. All right, good morning, Tanner Floyd, long-time watcher, first-time chatter. We appreciate you. I'm wondering what your opinion is regarding World League's ability to finish high in tourneys but not win. I think super good.
Yes. They are, I think they're one of the best armies.
Yes. So I think World Leaders occasionally run into a went second in the wrong game, had a bad matchup, made a mistake because I wasn't familiar with the matchup. I think they have that, but they can win most games most of the time. So I think they're great for that, actually. I think it's if that's what you're looking for as a result, and you're considering playing World Leaders, I think that it's a very realistic place for that to end.
Yes.
All right. Eddie's mama has a super chat for us.
Hello.
In an upcoming FAQ, GW will congratulate themselves on what a great job they have done next Metawatch. Which armies need rules changes, not just points?
Eldar, T-Suns, Tau, Drukhari, Imperial Knights, Admech, Custodes, Demons. Probably those.
I think CSM do. I think it needs something. I think CSM, Eldar, Imperial Knights, Drukhari. Obvious ones. I do think that Demons, Admech, Custodes, and
T-Suns.
I think to get T-Suns actually balanced, I think so. Yeah, I think everything in legible faction icon can be fixed with just points.
Yes.
And I think half of Codex 1 can be fixed with just points.
Yes.
I actually think Deathwatch.
Probably also.
Frankly, I think you could give Deathwatch their special issue ammo back and it wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, probably.
Because now that they don't have Oath the same way that they used to, I think it should be fine. Let's see. Ooh, Shadow Warden Phylos with a super chat. Thank you, Shadow Warden. Space Marine Vanguard needs to favor Phobos more. Raven Guard is sad. I agree.
Yeah. I want the Invictor to be better.
God, me too. That thing's so cool. I've got 3 of them. I love that.
I love the heavy bolter pistol. It's so cool.
Me too. It's peak. Keith, thank you for the support. Do Krons have game if Catan and Wraiths get nerfed? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
The codex are just good.
I think that Hypercrypt doesn't even need to take any Wraiths, although you can because obviously they're good at
I also think that Wraiths and Catan are so good that if they get nerfed, you would still take them.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Is I think that if they nerf Catan, you take less, not none.
Yeah.
Like if the Nightbringer went up 30 points, wouldn't even blink.
I'd still take him. He is ludicrous.
He's great.
Yeah.
And then Amanda James with another super chat. What changes are you expecting for custodes at the data slate, and what do you think they need?
I think they're probably going to get the Feel No Pain back against devastating.
That is my sincere hope. So, we don't know what's in it.
Nope.
Just put the giant asterisk.
No
So
idea.
what we expect is, I have no idea what to expect. I expect nothing, and we'll just find out what we get. What I think they need is that change needs to happen, and then I think, frankly, because the codex is coming relatively soon, I think you can decrease the points on a few units that aren't seeing any play at all. Give them their dev wound, feel no pain back, literally leave it there, and we check and see when the codex comes out. I don't think they need much.
That's fair.
Because mainly their problem is that some of the top armies just no hope them.
Yeah.
And then dev wounds.
The Forge Fiend just is like,
yeah, and if you work on Eldar and CSM and then give them a feel no pain against dev wounds, and frankly, if you didn't change a point in the army, I think that alone could bring them right into 5-9.
Yep.
We'll see. Gamer Geek Jason, thanks so much for the support. Should indirect units see a points increase? Indirect spam is a thing. Is this dropping 2 to completely block off a home objective?
I think indirect. I personally, if I had a magic wand, I would remove indirect from the game entirely.
Yep. However,
Yes, but I think it should go back to how it was in 9th edition, where it's -1 ballistic skill +1 armor save.
yeah, they could. They need to do something, because even though not all indirect is good, too much indirect is good. Too many different indirect things right now are good.
So I played at Worlds. I played like 20 something indirect pieces.
Yeah. Here's. Oh no, that doesn't work for guard. Okay, here's an idea. You remember how guard used to have an exemption to the indirect rule?
Yeah.
What if part of the guard rule was that, or part of it was that indirect pieces, it can, so heavy is +1 to hit against visible targets when you hold still, first of all. So heavy never works in indirect. Second, you kick the Night Spinner to the sun.
That's fair, but I think also like the PVC indirect and like
it's always well, exorcists are heavy though.
That's fair.
Part of what makes them annoying.
But I mean, like, I think the I just think broadly speaking that like the problem is not like we can continue to fight each individual problem as it comes up, or we can just be like we can like aircraft, right? They just axe aircraft at the source, which was good.
Yeah, I'd love to see a -1 ballistic skill. I don't think that you need to do the full -1 ballistic skill and a +1 save, because save stacking was too complicated and I hated it.
Yeah.
But I think that you could easily sneak -1 ballistic skill into the indirect penalty.
Because then if he has stealth, he can stack.
Yeah. I think you could easily do that.
Yeah.
And then also, I would still also want heavy to stop working. Also, frankly, ignore cover and heavy should both be against visible targets.
Yeah. It's fair.
Honestly. Like, how are you ignoring the building I'm in? Like, there's a roof over my head and you're just like, really?
Yeah.
Because like, if my roof is on fire, I don't always notice in the first 2 seconds. Not that it happens very often, mind you.
Your house is catch on fire every day?
Not
just me?
once. Just you.
Oh, okay.
It's because I keep lighting his house on fire. And Amanda James, another bonus question. Thank you so much for your support. What are you hoping for in the Custodes Codex? Solar Watch.
Do you know what I really want?
Dreadnoughts?
It's less so.
Oh.
Okay. 30k had a rule where all of Custodes infantry's unit coherency was 4 inches, and I think that'd be so cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I think I would honestly love it if they also had like a 2-inch engagement range thing.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't want a 4-inch coherency Custodes army getting tagged by Ryan.
Oh,
I can't swing on you. I really so of the old stuff from the last codex, Emperor's Chosen was the best.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like the Emperor's Chosen attachment.
Yeah.
But I very much would like to see like a Shadowkeeper melee dominance detachment.
How do you have more melee dominance than what you already have, though?
You lose fight first, gain -1 to, I don't know, living.
Fair.
Yeah, everyone's -1 life. Stop, get hit by the spear, get axed, nerd. No, I really want to see Silverwatch. I want to see more mobility tricks in Custodes. I want to see more, I'm so much better of a fighter than you that I am doing stuff that I don't normally do.
Yeah.
I want Custodes to have more fallback and do stuff, advance and do stuff. And I want Tanglefoot Grenades back in business. Give me Tanglefoot Grenades, GW. That's
I
all.
hate those things.
They're the best.
They were the worst.
I want them back. That's how you get melee dominance. Failed the charge, nerd. That's it.
Yeah.
So that, I believe, is every super chat. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Hope you really, really enjoyed this. We certainly did. And I think that's it.
Yep.
So one more time, take a screenshot. We're at the end of the tier list. Hope you enjoyed this. But I think this is where we go for now.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Check out the link below for free trial of the worm. And we'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.